Hello friends. This is Fiction Quest. How are you all? So in this video, we will see what if Naruto mastered forbidden jutsu with Orochimaru. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. Konohagakure no Sato in the Land of Fire is known for many things that make it unique among the other shinobi villages. Konoha is the home of the noble Hyuga clan who possess the famed Dujutsu Byakugan, which combined with their Juken gentle fist taijutsu allows them to kill a man with a single tap to the heart. A second clan of Dujutsu users that helped Konoha rise to fame were the Uchiha, with the penetrating gaze of their Sharingan that allowed them to predict what their enemies would do based on muscle movements and to copy any jutsu that they see. When the second and third great shinobi wars broke out, Konohagakure came out victorious through the strength of their shinobi, which led to many individuals gaining fame from their exploits. Such individuals include White Fang, Hatake Tsukumo, Professor, Sarutobi Sasuke, the legendary Sannin, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Konoha's Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato. But what has probably brought more fame to the village hidden in the leaves than any other act was when Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage, defeated the nine-tailed fox demon, Kyuubi no Kitsune. This led to the creation of a very special individual whose true importance is only known to the older citizens of Konoha. This person is Uzumaki Naruto, who unknowingly holds the Kyuubi within his body, making him a Jinchuriki. Like all Jinchuriki, he is viewed with mistrust, fear, and hate for the demon he carries, but because of the laws passed by the Sandaime, no one could take any action against the boy or even speak of what he is. While these laws kept people from harming Naruto, it did not stop them from isolating the boy, making sure that he never interacted with those who did not know his secret. The only friends that the blonde boy could claim were Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi, whom he saw as a grandfather, old man Ichiraku, who ran a ramen stand, who was like an uncle, and his daughter Ichiraku Ayame, who was like a cousin to him. However, these three he sees as family are constantly busy, and have little time for him, and are not enough for the growing boy. Fortunately, he is about to meet someone who will become a teacher and mentor, a guiding light that brightens the path Naruto will walk. Unfortunately for his enemies, this mentor is one of Konoha's most famous shinobi. One who is infamous for his skills and his crimes. A shinobi whose name is almost as taboo as the Kyuubi. The S-class missing nin and snake Sannin Orochimaru. A 6-year-old Naruto is found wandering through a deserted part of the forest within the walls of Konoha around sunset. He had just been at the park where he tried playing with some of the other children, but no sooner did he start running in a game of tag when all of the parents came and took their kids home. And Naruto once again found himself alone. He wasn't feeling hungry, so he couldn't go to the Ichiraku ramen stand to get dinner and spend time with the father and daughter that worked there. And Hokage Ojisan was busy with official Konoha business and couldn't be bothered. At times like this, Naruto would always go to one of several places where people rarely went. Places like this helped him deal with the loneliness when we went to places like this, because there was no one around to ignore him. This particular spot was one of Naruto's favorite as it had small pond right next to the edge of the Hokage mountain, and it was surrounded by a thick grove of trees and bushes that hid it from view. It possessed a natural serenity that allowed the boy's spirits to be lifted when he was feeling down, and any other day it would have, but today had been too much as it became obvious to the young boy that there was something wrong that had the parents force their children away from him. Naruto couldn't help it as he sat under the largest oak tree, brought his knees to his chest and began crying, not noticing the presence that approached him from behind. "Why are you so sad, little one?" asked a smooth, somewhat high, yet distinctly male voice. Naruto looked up startled at the sound and turned to see a man of above average height, with pale almost white skin, black hair that went down to his shoulders, and bright yellow eyes that were similar to a snake's, wearing standard blue shinobi sandals, gray shinobi pants and shirt, with a black jacket with dark green sleeves similar to what he wore when he searched for Tsunade. The man had a certain air about him that even an untrained child like Naruto could sense that he was dangerous. "Who are you?" Naruto asked fearfully, frightened by the man's aura. The man's face broke out into a friendly smile that helped to dispel his aura a little bit. "My name is Orochimaru, and you have nothing to fear from me, Naruto-kun," he answered. "You know me questioned the blonde child who was still nervous in the presence of the pale man.
But of course, Naruto-kun. It is hard for me to not know of a child that my sensei Sarutobi thinks so highly of.
You know Oji-san? Asked Naruto, whose fear was starting to dissipate when Orochimaru mentioned the name of the Hokage. Orochimaru chuckled as the conversation went the direction he wanted. Why, yes, I do. You see, Naruto-kun. I am one of Sarutobi-sensei's 3 students who became known as the Sannin. I wouldn't be surprised if you hadn't heard of us or seen us before, as the 3 of us, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and myself, prefer to remain outside of the village performing our own tasks and only rarely stopping by, answered Orochimaru.
Then why are you here now? Well, I have just come back from a long-term mission and was just getting reacquainted with the forests when I happened upon you, stated Orochimaru, leaving out the fact that he had been searching for the blonde boy. And I grew curious as to why such a special child was crying out here in the middle of the forest when he should be playing with the other children his age.
Naruto grew sad as he was reminded of what he was doing here in the first place, and tears gathered in his eyes. It's because everybody hates me and the only people who don't are too busy to be with me. I'm all alone, he answered. I wish I wasn't. Orochimaru's face took on the concentrated look of someone pondering a puzzle.
My, that is quite a problem. You, a young child, are for all intents and purpose alone in the world. This has led you to desire what you lack: friendship, admiration, respect, perhaps even love. Yet, since you're so young, it is practically impossible for you to accomplish anything that would allow you to obtain these things. Orochimaru's voice became softer as his musings continued, catching Naruto's attention. However, if you were older and you trained correctly, yes, it just might work.
Orochimaru-san, what are you thinking? Asked the young blonde. The Sannin turned his head so that he faced the mountain they were near. Tell me, Naruto-kun, do you know the name of this mountain and what makes it special? Naruto blinked at the odd question. It's the Hokage mountain, upon which the faces of the 4 Hokages are carved. Everyone knows that, he answered, not understanding the point. Orochimaru turned back towards the boy. Maybe I should ask this to help you understand. What makes the Hokage so special that the people would carve their faces into stone to immortalize them? Again Naruto blinked. Is it because they were so strong that they were picked to lead the village? He asked, no longer sure if the obvious answer was the right one. Orochimaru smiled as he filled in the rest. You are partially correct, Naruto-kun. While it is true that strength in battle is an important factor to become Hokage, it is not the only one. If it was, then I or any one of the Sannin could have become Hokage, as our own strength is considered equal to them. Naruto's eyes widened at the thought of 3 other ninja that were as strong as Oji-san. But, in order to become Hokage, a shinobi must also have the trust, admiration, and respect of the village, because as the leader, it is their responsibility to care for the village and make sure it survives times of turmoil. So, the previous Hokage is very specific when they choose their successor. That's why I was never selected for the job. While I am strong, some of things I had to do are not looked upon favorably. Orochimaru's explanation bounced around in Naruto's head as he began thinking of what the implications of those words were. Soon, understanding shone in his eyes, causing the observing Orochimaru to grin. That means that if I become a strong enough shinobi, gain the trust of the Hokage, I could become the next Hokage, then villagers will respect and love me. The light in Naruto's eyes shone brightly until a second realization hit him. But how can I get that strong? He muttered somewhat dejectedly. I just started at the academy, and I am the only one that's not getting outside help. Even the kids that don't come from shinobi clans have someone in their family who became a ninja that can help train them. I don't have anyone. A hand was placed on his shoulder and Naruto looked up to see the smiling face of Orochimaru. If it means that much to you, then I could help you gain the strength you need. The Sannin offered. Really? Asked the blonde boy, who was becoming his usual ball of energy like he was before he went into the park. But won't you be busy with missions? Of course, I will help you, Naruto-kun. You have something special that will help you to grow strong, and I would hate to see such potential wasted. As for missions, we Sannin are more or less allowed to do what we want. I will admit that there will be times when I have to leave the village for weeks, maybe even months at a time, but I will make sure that you have what you need to continue your training. Yada! Exclaimed Naruto as he jumped around, excited that he would be trained for the one thing that was sure to get him the love and respect he desired.
Orochimaru couldn't help but let out an amused chuckle at the child's antics. But now was not the time for celebration, but the time to get started on his training. Calm down, Naruto-kun. If you want to be Hokage, then there is a lot of work to do.
Hi, Orochimaru-sensei. The boy proclaimed as he stopped jumping around and stood before his new teacher.
Now, before we begin, I must ask you, Naruto, to never speak of what we are doing, especially that you are training with me. Naruto tilted his head, confused at the unusual request. How come, Orochimaru-sensei? Orochimaru's face became quite serious as he answered. As I told you before, because of what I've done, I am not the most well-liked shinobi in the village. And, because of your current status amongst the villagers, if word were to get out that I was training you, it would counterproductive to our goals.
At these words, a question that Naruto had his whole life came to the front of his mind. Orochimaru-sensei, why is it that so many people hate me? This time the snake Sanin's face took on an almost apologetic look. I am sorry, Naruto-kun. There are many questions you can ask me, but only a few that I cannot answer. So, you know why? The blonde Jinchuriki pressed.
Hi, I know the reason, as do most others in the village that are older than you. However, it is not my place to tell you, at least not yet. I will tell you if I deem that you are strong enough and mature enough to handle the answer. Until that time, you will just have to trust me when I say that you are not ready to know that secret.
Naruto contemplated this before he spoke again. Hi, sensei. I will trust you to tell me any secrets that you feel that I am ready for. Orochimaru grinned at hearing his new student's response. Excellent. Now Naruto-kun, here is how we are going to start your training. With that he outlined a training regime that included calisthenics, mediation, stealth exercises, weapons training, the 12 standard hand seals, how to draw on and mold chakra, and the katas for not only the basic academy taijutsu, but several others that were both native and non-native to Konoha. Once Naruto had started his training and was doing his calisthenics, Orochimaru let the grin he wore slip and be replaced by a more sinister smirk as he saw one of his most brilliant plans unfold before him.
Kukukuku. When Akatsuki makes their move against the Biju and the Jinchuriki, they will be in for quite a surprise once they come for Naruto-kun. Orochimaru chuckled as the sun set and the shadows expanded to engulf him, leaving only his eyes visible as he continued to watch Naruto finish his exercises and prepare to go home. The young blonde, not knowing just how important he would be to Konoha, Orochimaru, and 9th class shinobi that he had never heard of before.
12-year-old Uzumaki Naruto sits in the back of his academy class in his orange and blue jumpsuit with green goggles upon his head. He has been eagerly awaiting for this day ever since he started Konoha's Shinobi Academy. The day of the Genin exam has arrived. The day he would get the chance to become an official shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato.
Now a rational person would ask, what is a potential ninja doing wearing an orange jumpsuit? It is not the stealthiest of clothing. And to a ninja, stealthiness is next to godliness. A cookie goes to whoever can say the cliché I based this off of. The answer is that after a particular discussion with Orochimaru almost 6 years ago, Naruto decided to act as unshinobi-like as possible.
Flashback: it had been 6 months since Naruto had started his training under Orochimaru, and the snake-like man had decided to impart some advice that would help them both in the long run. Naruto-kun, I'm sure you noticed how you are pulling ahead of your classmates when it comes to your practical skills. Hi, I have noticed. Some of my teachers can't believe the improvement I made in just 6 months. Naruto proudly proclaimed with his hands held behind his head. While that is good news, I am going to request that you hold back when you are at the academy, preferably to the point where your skills are considered to be the dead last amongst your class.
This was an odd request that Naruto did not like. But he had learned early on that Orochimaru would not tolerate whining or slacking, and accepted nothing but perfection. However, he did encourage questions as it showed inquisitiveness or a desire to improve. Doesn't mean he'll answer them though. Sensei, why is it that you want me to hold back? Won't it just hinder me from achieving my goal to become Hokage? Not at all, Naruto-kun, assured Orochimaru. The placement an academy student has when they graduate rarely predicts how well they do as a true shinobi. My teammate Jiraiya is a perfect example.
In the academy he was near the bottom of the class, but he went on to become the Toad Sannin and a master of Fuinjutsu, only surpassed by his student the Yondaime Hokage. And being the class Dobi will provide you with several advantages. Seeing his student's confused look, he explained what he meant. First, if you are ranked dead last, people will underestimate you, which is an advantage I can no longer claim to have. Remember, deception and distraction are a shinobi's best friends, and to deceive your enemies you must first deceive your allies. If you manage to trick your opponents into thinking that you are weaker than what you are, it will make it that much easier to kill them and accomplish the mission. Then by the time it is revealed that you are stronger than what everyone believes, you will have the experience needed to accomplish much more difficult missions. A second advantage you will have will appear in your team selection. The academy has gotten into the habit of placing the dead last on the same team as the Rookie of the Year and another who is somewhere in the middle. It is a decent theory to place the weakest student with two others that could pick up the slack in case of emergency, but it often slows the team's chances to advance in the ranks. Now if you hold back, then you would be placed with the Rookie of the Year, making an overall stronger team, providing you the opportunity to advance much more quickly than usual. Naruto just stood there as he mulled over his sensei's plan. Like so many of his other ideas, it was sneaky, subtle, and completely genius. Flashback, and ever since that day Naruto did everything he could to get barely passable grades. That included the colorful clothing that would make him stand out during stealth exercises, although he still had to do something that would catch the attention of whoever was trying to find him. He would intentionally miss the target when he threw his shuriken and kunai. He would slip up when told to run through the hand seals. And when the class had taijutsu spars, Naruto stuck to the academy style, and even then his moves would be sloppy and his reactions were slow. In fact, the only grades that originally reflected his true skills were in the theoretical area, until Orochimaru added it to Naruto's training, insisting that it was necessary for the creation of new techniques. As it stood, his skills easily surpassed that of the Rookie of the Year Uchiha Sasuke or any other student, except maybe Sakura when it came to written tests, and even some of the Chunin instructors. He even possessed skills that most genin hadn't even started trying yet, such as Kenjutsu, Kinjutsu, and Fuinjutsu. Normally it would have been impossible for a 12-year-old to gain such abilities over the course of 6 years of training unless they were a genius, which Naruto insisted he wasn't. But it helped that his sensei was a genius and even provided Naruto training partners for when he would leave the village. Naruto still remembered the day he met Yakushi Kabuto and Kagaya Kimimaru. Flashback. A 7-year-old Naruto was going through his daily exercises waiting for the return of his sensei at the clearing where they first met. It had been about a year since the boy met the Sannin, who had since gone on several of his missions. His current mission had kept him away for about 3 weeks so far, and this is the longest one to date, and Naruto couldn't wait to show Orochimaru what he had managed to learn so the Sannin would provide more lessons. Suddenly he heard some rustling in a nearby bush. Reacting as quickly as possible, Naruto grabbed the 2 kunai he had hidden in his clothes, a white t-shirt and blue shorts. He threw one of the kunai towards the sound while moving into a defensive stance with his second kunai at the ready. The kunai he threw went through the bush, which rustled more as someone got hit by it or caught it. Naruto figured the former as he heard someone mutter an "ow" from the bush. "Kukakuku, I warned you, Kimimaru, about what would happen if you tried to sneak up on my student," spoke the voice of Orochimaru. Naruto spun around to see that his mentor had snuck up behind him, somewhat shocking him. While Naruto was used to his sensei's abilities at stealth, what surprised this time was that fact that Orochimaru had brought along a silver-haired youth in purple clothing and glasses, who appeared several years older than Naruto. The new youth was wearing a leaf hitate that marked him as a Konoha shinobi. "Orochimaru-sensei," the blonde boy shouted in greeting as he went to stand before his mentor. Sensei, who is this, and who did I hit?" he questioned as he was curious who Orochimaru trusted enough with their secret training. "Kukuku, don't worry Naruto-kun. I would have never brought someone here unless I trusted them completely," assured Orochimaru. "This young lad next to me is Yakushi Kabuto, a 14-year-old genin who desires to be a medic, and shows great potential for it as well." "Greetings Naruto-kun," said the silver-haired genin. "And the young boy who tried to sneak up on you, despite my warnings, is 10-year-old Kagaya Kimimaru. A prodigy at the use of the Kagaya Keke Genkai, the Skiketsu Myaku."
A bloodline that allows him to control his bones in any way he desires, and last of his clan. Continued Orochimaru as he indicated the boy with white hair, 2 red dots on his forehead, and wearing a large blue shirt with blue pants that stepped out of the bushes he was hiding in. With Naruto's kunai in hand. Kimimaro, what do you have to say about your actions? He asked the Kagaya.
I was merely seeing if this boy was worthy of being your student Orochimaru-sama. Kimimaro curtly replied.
Orochimaru couldn't help but chuckle at the statement. You need not worry, Kimimaro. If I did not feel that Naruto-kun was worthy, then I would not have started training him. The Sannin stated. And while we are talking about training, Naruto, why do you suppose I brought these 2 with me today? He questioned his pupil.
Naruto thought about it for a second, before he determined that it was not one of the trick questions Orochimaru liked to give him. You brought them here so we could train together. He worded it like a question but stated like a statement. Precisely, Naruto-kun. Kimimaro is highly skilled at taijutsu, and sparring with him should increase your reflexes and abilities in the field. Kabuto, on the other hand, can help you with your chakra control and tutor you in other areas of the shinobi arts. Orochimaru said with a grin. Now it is important for the 3 of you to get along, because you will be seeing a lot of each other. Hi Orochimaru-sensei, Orochimaru-sama, chorused the 3 boys. Flashback end. After that day, the 3 boys would spend much of their free time together, helping each other to improve in their chosen fields. And each noticed a definite increase in skill. Naruto and Kimimaro sparred constantly in taijutsu-only matches. For Naruto, this allowed him to refine the skills he had in each one of the taijutsu styles he knew through combat, which is a much more effective learning method than simply going through the katas. Kimimaro learned how to adapt his Kagaya dances to the different taijutsu styles Naruto used. But his best adaptations were the ones he designed against the Hibiken, a style of Orochimaru's creation based on the Hyuga's Juken, using palm thrusts, finger strikes, and punches to strike at pressure points and vital spots such as the kidneys, and combining it with a snake's movements to twist and dodge around the enemy instead of blocking, and the Goken. These are Naruto's preferred styles, even if he knew the basics for several others. And it was thanks to these spars that Kabuto got to practice and teach Naruto medical jutsus, because the 2 of them were sure Kimimaro was trying to hospitalize Naruto those first few times, and he almost succeeded if not for Kabuto's knowledge and Naruto's enhanced healing abilities. But Naruto's thoughts were wandering, and now was not the time. He needed to focus so that he could pass this test with the minimum necessary points so that he would be labeled as the dobi of the class. To focus his mind, Naruto slipped into a light meditative trance for a few minutes and only came out of it when he heard the door of the classroom open, despite the noise the other students were making, signaling the arrival of the class's Chunin instructor, Iruka, and his assistant for the test, Mizuki. All right everyone, quiet down, said the scarred Chunin as he tried to calm down his class so they could get on with the test.
And failing. Class, settle down this instant, he said more forcefully, again with none of the excited students paying him any attention.
Iruka sighed as he made the rat seal with his hands, having to resort to that jutsu. Suddenly Iruka's head became gigantic as he yelled in an extra loud voice, "Sit down and shut up." That caught the children's attention, making them sit up straight, shut their mouths, and face forward with that deer caught in the headlights look. No matter how many times Iruka used his giant evil head jutsu, it always had the desired effect. It was also one of those rare jutsus that no one could determine what it was, how it worked, or how to undo it, not even the Hokage. Iruka smiled at his stunned students. Now that I have your attention, we can begin with the first part of the Genin exam. The written test. Hearing this, some of the students groaned. Kiba. Some looked bored and brooded. Sasuke. Some looked excited. Sakura. Some were asleep. Shikamaru. And one loudmouth decided it was time to put on a show. Bring it on, sensei, shouted Naruto as he stood up on his desk and throwing his fist in the air. I'll ace this test, pass this exam, and be one step closer to becoming Hokage.
Ha, as if a dobi like you could be Hokage, snorted on Inuzuka Kiba. You've taken this test 2 times already, and failed. What makes this time any different? The dog-like boy asked with his dog Akamaru barking in agreement. Iruka took this time to step in and prevent fight between the 2 class hotheads. Now Kiba. Naruto had written permission from his guardian to take the test early, and the fact that he failed those times simply shows why we hold the test during the 6th year. I doubt there's anyone in this class that could have done any better than him. He chose to ignore the shouts of Sasuke's fangirls that the young Uchiha could have.
Naruto gave the Chunin an appreciative smile for defending him. Iruka was one of the few outside of Naruto's training partners that he spent any time with, as the teacher had taken the blonde boy for ramen numerous times, and had even offered to help him several times. Of course, Naruto refused those offers by saying that he had an older genin tutoring him, which he did. Now, while Naruto wanted to make Iruka proud, he still had a part to play.
Thanks, Iruka-sensei, I'll pass for sure this time. And when I do, I will become one of the best shinobi ever. He turned to get off his desk, only to slip on a piece of scrap paper and fall face first onto the floor with his ass hanging in the air. Everyone just sweat dropped at the sight of a self-proclaimed future Hokage being bested by a piece of paper. That's pathetic, they all thought. Meanwhile, in the Hokage Tower, the Sandaime Hokage had a sudden fit of sneezes as he battled the immortal enemy of all cages, paperwork. Mizuki coughed to get the attention of the class as he handed out the papers for the test. As Naruto looked over the test, he couldn't help but sigh at how easy it was. It only had standard questions that any academy student should be able to answer, covering the history of Konoha, the elemental countries, the difference between ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu, when traps should be set, and the kind of locations that would be best for ambushes. He could have answered them all correctly, but answered just enough to put him on the border of pass and fail. After an hour, all the tests were completed and given to Iruka to grade, while Mizuki led the class outside for first of the practical tests. All right, class, this is the weapons test to determine your skill with kunai and shuriken. You will take 5 of each weapon, stand at the mark, and throw them at any target you want. In order to pass this test, you must hit a target at least 5 times, and one of those 5 has to be a bullseye. We'll go 5 at a time in alphabetical order, starting with Aburame Shino. This test passed quickly, with most students hitting a target 7 times with 2 bullseyes. Because of the number of students, 2 of them, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto, went in a group of 2. Sasuke showed off his natural skill by hitting the target 10 times with 5 bullseyes, and the other 5 weapons in one of the inner circles of the target. Naruto got the bare minimum hits of 5 and 1. He ignored the teasing of the other boys in the background, and the shouting of Sasuke's fangirls at how incredible he was, knowing that if he actually tried, he could get a bullseye on a stationary target 10 times out of 10, and at least 9 times out of 10 on a moving target. The third part of the exam that Mizuki gave them tested their ability to hide and move stealthily through a wooded area that had several trip wires with bells attached to them. They failed if more than 3 bells rang. Sasuke was tied for the best spot this time with Hyuga Hinata, both of whom managed to pass the test without ringing a single bell. Naruto also tied with 2 students, Inuzuka Kiba and Akamichi Choji, but unlike those 2, Naruto tripped the wires intentionally. After that was their usual half-hour lunch break, where the students could do what they wanted. As usual, Naruto ate a solitary lunch on the roof of the academy as he observed the other students. Once lunch was over, all of the students went over to the sparring fields, where they would show their abilities at taijutsu by sparring with another student in front of Mizuki or Iruka, who had finished grading the test papers. Who each person would fight was selected by random selection. Some of the fights were interesting, such as Kiba versus Sasuke. Kiba had an edge when it came to strength and was probably the only student, aside from Naruto, that could match Sasuke in speed. On the other hand, Kiba also had terrible form and would leave dozens of openings when he attacked, that Sasuke exploited to win. Then there was Hinata and Ino, both of whom were pretty good kunoichi, but Hinata had the edge at taijutsu from her training in the Juken. Naruto himself ended up getting paired with Choji, which he thought was lucky on his part since Choji was good enough at taijutsu that losing to him wouldn't be that bad. "Are you ready, boys?" asked Iruka, who would be evaluating their individual skills. "Hi, sensei," replied the 2 boys, who looked at each other with friendly yet determined expressions. "Good luck to you, Choji, and the same to you, Naruto." Iruka brought his hand up and swung it down while saying, "Begin." Naruto charged at his Choji, knowing that the large boy was slow and would use his strength and weight to try to overpower the blonde boy. And that was precisely what happened as Naruto punched Choji in the chest, only to be grabbed and paid back with a hard left hook.
Naruto then backed off and tried kicking. Choji responded by blocking with his arm, grabbing the leg, and spinning to throw Naruto. Deciding it was time to show a tiny portion of what he could really do, Naruto twisted so that he would roll once he hit the ground, allowing him to quickly rebound back onto his feet before he charged again. This time Naruto went for a sliding kick aimed for the larger boy's ankles, knowing that as was usually one of the biggest weaknesses in the Akamichi fighting style. Once Naruto's foot hit Choji's ankle, the heavy boy lost his balance and ended up falling on top on Naruto.
"Okay boys, that's enough," said Iruka to stop the fight, as he went over to help the flattened Naruto up. He failed to notice the smirk on the blonde boy's face.
Finally, it was time for the last part of the exam. Testing the ability of the students to use the 3 basic academy jutsus.
Iruka would call a student to the front of the class so they can perform all 3 jutsu, then he and Mizuki would examine the separate aspects of each jutsu. Each student would first use the kawarimi and replace themselves with a log that was provided. Then the student had to henge into a perfect copy of Iruka. And finally, they had to produce 3 standard bunshin before it was decided on whether or not they passed.
For Naruto, this was a make it or break it situation, because if he did not perform each jutsu perfectly, he would not have enough points to pass the exam.
Unfortunately, bunshin was by far the most difficult of all the jutsus he knew to perform. It wasn't a particularly difficult jutsu to learn, at least for most students.
The problem was that, unlike most jutsu, to perform the bunshin your chakra control had to be proportionate to the amount of chakra you had.
So for most students, being able to perform the leaf floating exercise was all they needed, since the amount of chakra they had was so small.
For Naruto, however, he had to master a chakra control exercise of Kabuto's design before he could do it. First he had to do the leaf floating exercise. Then at the same time he had to a reverse form of the tree walking exercise to make kunai stick to his arms by the very point of their blade, without piercing the skin. And while doing that, he had to walk on water and dodging projectile weapons at the same time. It was times like that he was really grateful for his advanced healing. Eventually, right after Sasuke, it was Naruto's turn.
"Okay Naruto, first replace yourself with this log," requested Iruka. Naruto made the 3 seals needed for kawarimi and with a poof of smoke, he stood where the log once was.
"Very nice, now henge into me." This time Naruto just made the ram seal while saying, "Henge. Transform." With a second poof of smoke, Naruto became a second identical Iruka.
"All right Naruto, now all you need to do is make 3 bunshin and you pass." Iruka was pretty calm on the outside, but was sweating bullets on the inside. He knew that this was Naruto's worst jutsu, and had never seen him perform it perfectly before. Naruto just nodded his head, brought his hands into the tiger seal and muttered, "Bunshin no jutsu, clone technique." This time there were 3 puffs of smoke and suddenly there were 4 Narutos, each wearing a foxy grin on their face.
Iruka let out an internal sigh of relief as he tallied up Naruto's score. "Well, congratulations Naruto. It looks like this year you pass," said the happy teacher as he held out a Hokage that would mark Naruto as an official genin of Konohagakure.
"Yada," shouted Naruto as he grabbed the forehead protector and started jumping around like some lunatic on a sugar high. Alas for poor Naruto, despite how much his teacher likes him, even Iruka has his limits.
"Quite," shouted Iruka as he once again used his giant evil head jutsu on the poor boy to make him seat in his seat, and scaring half the class at the same time. Iruka gave a quick cough to regain his composure. "All right class, that is all for today. Congratulations to all of you who passed. You may now go home, but I expect to see you here Monday morning for your team assignments." As the students, now genin, filed out of the academy, they found their parents waiting for them out on the school's front lawn. Each genin went off to find their own parent to show off their Hokage or brag about how they did in the test. Those who did not have family waiting for them went home to show their siblings what they had accomplished. What nobody noticed in the confusion was one orange-clad boy who normally left to do whatever it is he does as soon the academy let out, was standing over by the tree with a swing. And those that did notice thought that if they didn't know better they would have said that he was waiting for someone. Uzumaki Naruto was in fact waiting for someone. Someone whom he knew would seek one of the genin out anyways thanks to a little conversation he had that morning. Flashback. It was the morning of the genin exam,
and Naruto could barely contain his excitement as he would finally become a genin. He was tempted to start roof hopping to get to the academy faster, and he would have if he had not felt a familiar presence above his apartment. "So Kabuto, what are you doing here this morning?" he asked as he looked up to see the 19-year-old teenager sitting upon his roof.
My, you have got good at detecting my presence, Naruto-kun," Kabuto complimented as he adjusted his glasses.
"Or you're just slacking," the blonde countered. "But that doesn't answer my question. You're normally working on some medical experiment at this time of the day. So you must have some reason for coming to see me," Naruto reasoned.
Kabuto smirked when he heard that. "Bravo, Naruto-kun. It's that natural inquisitiveness and examining of the facts that makes you perfect for this little mission Orochimaru-sama has for you."
Naruto was a little surprised at that. What kind of mission would Sensei give me that he wouldn't give to you or Kimimaro like he usually does? "Through our investigations, Orochimaru-sama and I believe that we have uncovered a traitor amongst the Chunin instructors at the academy." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Traitor he muttered as he remembered a conversation he had been meaning to have with his teacher. "Hi, our primary suspect is Mizuki since there are some oddities in his service record, but it could be someone else. What we do know is that they are planning to make their move sometime today, and we suspect they plan to use an academy student in some way. If it is Mizuki, chances are he will attempt to use one of the graduating genin. Should he approach one of them, it's your mission to figure out what he's after and to stop him the best way you see fit," Kabuto explained. "Consider it Orochimaru-sama's own test to see if you were ready to be a genin." Having said what he needed to say, Kabuto stood up and started roof hopping to his team's meeting ground. Flashback end. Naruto didn't have to wait long before he saw the bandana-wearing Chunin approach him, waving a hand in greeting.
"Yo Naruto, I'm glad you haven't left yet. I have something important to talk to you about," said the Chunin. Naruto put his hands behind his head and gave his idiot smile as an act of trust. "What did you want to see me about, Mizuki-sensei?" he asked. Mizuki gave his own friendly smile to help convince the boy to do what he wanted. "I wanted to talk to you about your graduation grade. You don't know this yet, but your score was at the absolute bottom of the barrel. Iruka and I had never seen such low numbers that still passed. So we decided to provide you with one more test to see if you are truly ready to become a shinobi." The Chunin lied. "Failing doesn't mean you will no longer be a genin, but it might make you reconsider if you are ready." "What kind of test is it, Mizuki-sensei?" Naruto asked with fake curiosity and real anticipation. Thinking that he had tricked the class idiot, Mizuki outlined the details of the test. He told Naruto that to succeed he had to sneak into the Hokage Tower, get past the Hokage and snatch a special scroll called the Forbidden Scroll, and for extra credit he had to learn one jutsu from it. If Naruto could do that, then he would prove that he was more than ready to be a genin. The two parted ways after Mizuki told Naruto where and when to meet him with the scroll. Time skipped to later that night. Naruto plopped the large forbidden scroll that he had just stolen onto the ground. He had to hand it to Mizuki for figuring out that because of Naruto's close relationship to the Hokage, he would be able to get close enough to nab the scroll. All Naruto had to do was go into the Hokage's office as he would on any other day, ask to see the scroll, and then use a secret jutsu he created after hearing about how perverted Orochimaru's old teammate Jiraiya is, and after seeing the Sandame reading a copy of Icha Icha Paradise. It knocked the old man out with a massive nosebleed. He probably wouldn't show anyone that jutsu in a serious situation, but it served his purpose for tonight. Naruto had another 2 hours before the expected arrival of Mizuki and Iruka if he was right. But until then he might as well put the time he had to good use. Opening the forbidden scroll while taking out 2 smaller scrolls, unsealing some ink and a brush from one of them, Naruto set to work copying down any interesting jutsu that he came across. After 45 minutes of copying, he resealed and put away his supplies, and set to work learning the first jutsu in the scroll. The B-ranked Kage Bunshin. He already knew several Bunshin jutsu thanks to Orochimaru, but this was the only one of 2 native to Konoha, and it looked like it had its uses that made it somewhat superior to the C-ranked elemental Bunshin most people used. After spending most of his remaining time practicing the Kage Bunshin, he had finally mastered it, and he was not surprised that such a jutsu was in the Forbidden Scroll. It wasn't much harder than the Tsuchi Bunshin that Orochimaru taught him,
but it took a lot more chakra to create a Kage Bunshin than any other type of Bunshin.
His self-congratulations for his accomplishment were cut short as he heard a shout from above.
Naruto. Naruto turned to see Iruka landing on the ground behind him, somewhat out of breath from the frantic tree hopping he did to get there.
Hey Iruka-sensei, Naruto greeted the teacher. I didn't think that you would get here so fast.
Naruto, what were you thinking stealing the forbidden scroll? Asked the exasperated Chunin. The Hokage sent all of the available Chunin out to search for you. Do you realize how much trouble you have gotten yourself into?
Naruto couldn't help but give a foxy grin as he rubbed the back of his head.
Well, to answer your questions Iruka-sensei, if hadn't stolen the scroll the way I did, then Hokage Ojisan wouldn't have sent the Chunin to search for me, specifically you since you have some knack for finding me. Iruka was somewhat surprised at that confusing statement and would have voiced it if Naruto did not continue his explanation. And if I didn't steal it tonight, Mizuki would have tried to find some other way to steal it, and then there would have been a chance that we would have lost it. Naruto left out how he wanted to get some more jutsu to add to his arsenal. That last revelation left Iruka in a state of shock. Shock that he did not come out of till Naruto started poking him with a stick. What do you mean it was Mizuki's idea to steal the scroll? He shouted.
Naruto would have explained it if he had not caught the bit of movement behind Iruka and tackled him to the ground as a large shuriken. Up in the tree where the shuriken originated, Mizuki cursed. Kuso, I can't believe I missed.
Mizuki, what do you think you're doing? Iruka shouted at his fellow Chunin.
I thought it was obvious when Naruto explained it, although I am surprised that the class idiot was able to figure it out, answered the traitorous Chunin.
Naruto smirked as he answered with the forbidden scroll at his side. Well, how many other genin out there can just walk in on the Hokage anytime they want? And how many of those people would the Hokage just show such a valuable village treasure? Even a monkey could have figured out what you were planning.
I guess a monkey could have figured it out if even an idiotic brat like you did, sneered Mizuki. But it seems there's a flaw with your plan, brat. How did you plan to keep me from getting the scroll once I got here? He asked.
Naruto paused and blinked for a second and said, I figured that Iruka-sensei and I would team up against you, as if it was the most obvious thing to do.
Mizuki could not contain the laughter that welled up within him. Iruka is no match for me on his own. And do you really think that the weakest genin that the academy ever trained could make up that difference?
A knowing smirk grew on Naruto's lips. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can.
The laughter burst out of Mizuki full force once again. Oh, that is rich. Tell you what, Naruto. As thanks for the amusement you provided, I'll let you in on a little secret. The secret of why everybody hates you.
No, Mizuki, it's forbidden to speak of it, shouted Iruka, clearly distressed at what Mizuki was about to reveal.
Naruto was for once speechless. He felt a sense of excitement at finally having a chance to find out this secret. But he also felt dread at the implications of what knowing this before he was ready could mean.
As you know, Naruto, 12 years ago on October 12 the Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked the village of Konoha. Many shinobi lost their lives that day, but the most famous one was undoubtedly the Yondaime Hokage, who the history books say gave his life to defeat the great demon. But what the history books don't tell you is how the Yondaime could not kill the fox, so he had to do the next best thing. He sealed the demon into a child, but not just any child would do. It had to be a newborn child. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized the implications of what Mizuki said. Stop, Mizuki, you mustn't say any more, shouted Iruka, who was desperate to keep Mizuki from continuing. But it was for naught. That child was you, Naruto. You were the Kyuubi reborn. Mizuki grinned as he prepared his next attack. Now die, he shouted as he threw a second giant shuriken. Normally it would have been child's play for Naruto to avoid such a straightforward attack. But his upper-level mental capacities had shut down as he processed the information, and didn't move an inch as the shuriken approached him. He didn't regain his ability to think until blood splashed across his face. When he returned to the world of the living, he was greeted with a sight that horrified him. Iruka had jumped in front of him and taken the attack in his place, and now had the shuriken embedded into his back. Iruka-sensei, why? Iruka gave him a doleful stare that expressed sadness and regret, yet at the same time a sense of happiness and hope. Because no matter what anyone else says, I know that you are Uzumaki Naruto and not the Kyuubi. When I see you, I see a person full of hope, happiness, and an energy that can show anyone the better side of life if they take the time to get to know you. And I also see a young man who has the potential to be the greatest Hokage ever. Iruka collapsed as his breathing slowed to next to nothing. Well, that was unexpected, muttered Mizuki. But since the real threat has been taken care of, I don't have to worry about finishing off the brat quickly before I make my escape and bring the forbidden scroll to my master. When Mizuki saw that Naruto hadn't moved from where he stood with a barely living Iruka still in his arms, he moved in for the kill, taunting. Ah, has the future Hokage lost his nerve at the sight of real blood? Don't worry, I'll end your suffering now. He raised several shuriken to finish the two off when an intense pulse of killing intent washed over him. Mizuki had never felt anything like this before. It was so powerful, he froze as he saw his own death by several gruesome means. You shouldn't have done that, Mizuki-tem, Naruto said in a low, dangerous voice as he raised his head, revealing an emotionless face. Except for his eyes that shone with an unrivaled hatred for the one held in their gaze. And you're wrong about me being the Kyuubi. I know that there are those who know and care for who I truly am, Uzumaki Naruto, the future Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. And I promise you, any person who harms them shall be repaid 100-fold. With that declaration he gently put Iruka down as he prepared to take down the traitor. He brought his hands into a cross-shaped hand seal and with a cry of, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique. He created 50 shadow clones within and around the forest clearing. Unlike the regular Bunshin, the Kage Bunshin is capable of dealing as much damage as the original. Naruto could have created more, but 50 was more than enough to deal with the Chunin. Attack, he commanded, letting the clones do the fighting as he turned his attention back to Iruka while removing the shuriken and activating the Shaozen Jutsu that Kabuto taught him. All he could heal were cuts, but that should be enough to prevent Iruka from dying. While Naruto was taking care of his Chunin sensei, 16 of his Kage Bunshin advanced on Mizuki with speed that the traitor wouldn't have thought possible for the original, much less Bunshin. 14 advanced more quickly and started attacking with taijutsu, that Mizuki tried countering since he was free of the killing intent that froze him. But those 14 split into two groups of 7, each using one of two distinctly different styles in a coordinated assault. If he tried countering one style, he would either get powerful punches and kicks to his face, chest, stomach, and spine, or not as hard but very painful finger and palm strikes that would hit his kidneys, jugular, temple, pressure points in his shoulders and hips, making his extremities numb and slowing him down. If he tried to counter both styles, he would just be struck by both kinds of hits, and only rarely did he do enough damage to a clone to make it disperse. Soon Mizuki was tired, bruised, numb, had broken bones, and had only managed to destroy 5 of the Kage Bunshin. That's when 2 of the Bunshin grabbed him by the arms and legs, and horizontally threw him at another that kicked him into the air, where 4 more waited in the trees before jumping towards the Chunin and delivered 4 simultaneous punches to the abdomen, that sent Mizuki crashing into the forest floor, leaving a sizable crater. Naruto had finished healing Iruka and went over to check on the Chunin traitor to make sure he wasn't dead. He only wanted his Bunshin to leave Mizuki in a state where he would live, but would never be a shinobi again unless he managed to get extensive medical treatment. Deciding that an appropriate amount of damage had been done, he dismissed all but 4 of his clones. Those 4 he delegated to carry the 2 Chunin to the hospital. While they did that, Naruto himself gathered up the forbidden scroll to take back to the Hokage, but as he was departing he spared a quick glance and a small smirk towards a heavily shadowed patch of trees, causing a bit of curiosity to pass over the 2 groups that were observing him. 3 individuals hiding in the shadows within the trees, one with silver hair and glasses, one with white hair with red spots on his forehead, and one with black hair and glowing yellow eyes, were somewhat surprised and very pleased with what they had seen their blonde companion do. Naruto-kun's skills have become quite impressive over the years. The way he handled the Chunin and how he was able to detect us was proof enough. Spoke the silver-haired Kabuto. I must agree with you, Kabuto, said the ever-taciturn Kagaya of the group. But his abilities were clearly wasted on that trash. He wasn't even taking the fight seriously and he came out of it unscratched. Although the fact that he now knows of what he contains was an unexpected development. Kimimaro stated. Kukuku, Naruto-kun might not have been born a genius like us, but his training has clearly left him with a superior mind and body that makes him the equal of any natural-born genius, despite what he says. Mused Orochimaru. As for the revelation concerning the fox, well, that might have been problematic if not for the interference of Iruka. But thanks to him Naruto-kun is walking the desired path, he concluded. Kabuto, make sure that he survives. He will help ensure our plans for the future are a success. Hi Orochimaru-sama, excellent. Now I will go meet young Naruto-kun to present him with one last gift as his sensei. Then I must have a talk with him to determine where his loyalties lie. What will happen if his loyalties are not with you Orochimaru-sama? Asked the ever-loyal Kimimaro. Orochimaru couldn't help but chuckle. Whether they lie with me or with Konoha does not matter Kimimaro. My goal is to have him become strong enough to be Hokage, so either way he will remain here to serve Konoha. But what he says will have an immense impact on any future interactions we have. With that he used Shunshin to transport himself towards the home of his student, leaving behind his two subordinates. In the Hokage Tower, Sarutobi Sasuke had called off the search and was waiting for Naruto to return with the Forbidden Scroll. He had watched the whole interaction in his crystal ball and he had to be honest about how surprised and shocked he was with what he had seen. Sarutobi had watched over the boy his whole life, and as far as he knew the skills he had shown in the academy were his true abilities. Yet tonight Naruto had shown the ability to produce multiple Kage Bunshin without getting tired, and skill in not one but two advanced taijutsu styles. The Goken, and one disturbingly familiar to the Hibiken his student created. But only two people were supposed to know that style, one who vowed never to teach it to anyone, and the creator himself. And if Sarutobi was right, then that was just the tip of the iceberg of Naruto's skills. Skills that had been kept hidden from everyone in Konoha. And what was it that Naruto noticed in the forest? The Hokage sighed as he came to a decision. He wouldn't confront Naruto about what he had seen, yet. The boy made his loyalties and goals clear with his declaration. But if worse came to worse he would find out what was going on. It was the middle of the night and all was quiet in Konohagakure, as Naruto walked back to his apartment after leaving the Hokage Tower where he returned the Forbidden Scroll. Fortunately the Sandaime was expecting him, so he wasn't arrested by a bunch of Chunin the moment he walked through the doors. Sarutobi Ojisan said a few words to Naruto that implied that he knew what had happened and was not going to press the boy, but would wait till he was ready to talk to him. Naruto was grateful for this as he needed some time to get his thoughts in order. He may have realized, thanks to Iruka, that he was the same Uzumaki Naruto he was yesterday and that nothing anyone said or did would change that. But there were other matters concerning this secret of his that had his mind in turmoil. For years before he met Orochimaru, Naruto had admired the Yondaime Hokage. Back then it was simple hero worship for the one who defeated the Kyuubi. Then when he met his sensei, he grew to respect the man not as the Hokage who defeated the most powerful of the Biju, but as the shinobi Namikaze Minato. The only ninja he saw as truly stronger than his sensei. But now that he knew that it was the Yondaime who was the cause of the way his life was, Naruto wasn't quite sure what to think. It was because of the Yondaime that he was hated all of his life, for reasons he could not control. If the great beast hadn't been sealed within him, then he could have had friends, maybe even adopted by some family, and led a normal childhood. However, if the Yondaime had not sealed the fox into Naruto, then it was very probable that he would not have had a life in the first place. And, in a way it was sort of an honor to be selected for this. There were at least 1 or 2 civilian children born on that night, yet it was Naruto who was selected to contain the demon. He was the one who was entrusted to hold back the Kyuubi, and prevent the destruction of the Hidden Leaf Village. Then there was the fact that if Naruto had not been lonely and gone to that clearing on that day 6 years ago, he might have never met his sensei, or anyone else Orochimaru introduced him to. Naruto sighed as his thoughts became organized. He could understand the Yondaime's decision, and in some ways, even respect and thank him for it. But deep within his heart, Naruto knew that there would always be a little resentment for what he had to go through. Upon reaching his apartment that took up the entire top floor of his building, Naruto paused for just a second before unlocking his door and stepping inside. "Did I pass your test Orochimaru-sensei?" he asked as he stepped over the threshold. The snake Sannin stepped out of the shadows he had been hiding in as he answered. With flying colors, Naruto-kun. I was especially impressed when you revealed that your original plan was to use Iruka to continue hiding your strength. Too bad that he got that shuriken in his back. But, that provided me the chance to see some of your medical skill. Of course, I sent Kabuto to check on him. Can't have such a loyal Chunin dying now, can we? He asked somewhat rhetorically. Naruto smiled when he heard that the Chunin instructor would be receiving medical attention from Kabuto, one of the best medics since Tsunade. I'm glad he'll be alright. Thank you, sensei. He paused as another question popped into his head. Orochimaru-sensei, do Kabuto and Kimimaro know about the Kyuubi? They do, Naruto-kun. I wouldn't have trusted them as your training partners if they could not deal with that fact. But, right now I have important things to discuss with you. Orochimaru stated as his face took on a serious look. Now that you are a genin, you will be put on a genin team and your training will be the responsibility of a Junin instructor. So, I have decided that it is time to leave your training in their hands. He explained to his blonde student. So it's time that you return to living the life of a missing nin sensei? He asked, somewhat surprising Orochimaru that the boy had known some of the truth about him. The Sannin couldn't help but chuckle. Impressive, Naruto-kun. Tell me, how long have you known about it? He asked. Naruto gave a small smile as he recalled the time he first figured it out. About 2 years ago, I went to the library where they hold the public records so that I might find out more about the Sannin. In your records it said that for some classified reason you were labeled as an S-class criminal that fled the village. He stated. At first, I was shocked and confused on what one of the most dangerous missing nin was doing back in the village training me, and I started running through every conversation we had in my head. It was then that I realized that everything that you said to me was never a lie. Just not the whole truth. So I decided to wait and see what you would do. If you did anything that would be detrimental to Konoha, I would reveal everything to the Hokage. But you never did, so I must ask. Why? I have my reasons for wanting you and Konoha to be strong. I'll keep them to myself for now, but know this. Because of those reasons I will test your strength and the strength of this village when the opportunity presents itself. Said the Sannin as he directed Naruto's attention to the table in the kitchen. But now I have a little something for you as a graduation present. On the table, Naruto could see 2 large scrolls, each roughly the size of the forbidden scroll that he had held not too long ago. What are these, sensei? More jutsu? He asked. Curious because the majority of the scrolls Orochimaru gave him had a type of jutsu, or some kind of theoretical chakra manipulation technique. Well, Naruto-kun, you already know a number of my jutsu, and for those you don't, you have scrolls with the necessary information on how to use them. You are also very proficient at my taijutsu style, not to mention your kenjutsu skills. What I am presenting you with is the last thing that will mark you as my student. These, Naruto-kun, are the summoning contracts to my 2 summons. Orochimaru grinned at the stunned expression on his student's face. Summoning contracts. Why, you're going to let me sign your summoning contracts? Naruto barely managed to stutter out, in his excitement. Then he became confused as he remembered something that he had been taught in the academy. Wait a minute, sensei, how can you have 2 contracts? We were taught that any shinobi lucky enough to get the chance to sign a contract will only be allowed to sign 1. Once again Orochimaru was pleased as his student asked questions about something offered to him that he deemed questionable, instead of just accepting it like some shinobi had the habit of doing. And, were killed because of it. In my travels I discovered that little fact was just a misconception caused by the fact that contracts are usually passed from teacher to student. Since most contract holders will usually only choose one person to sign it, it often becomes considered an heirloom and it became disrespectful to the teacher if the student signed a second contract. Eventually it became the belief that the reason they didn't sign a second contract was because they couldn't. Explained the Sannin. I myself originally thought the same, until I met a man during my travels that could control numerous species of unusual summons. After doing some research, I found that it was within the abilities of everyone to use multiple summons. During that time I came across a rather unusual contract for the Roshomen Gates. Unlike most contracts which summon an animal, this one allows you to summon a large gate-like structure. I am not sure of its original purpose, but I find that it is capable of acting as an ultimate defense. The downside is that the attack must be straightforward, that cannot be stopped once it started, or else the enemy could just go around it. Naruto was somewhat stunned that Orochimaru was not only letting him sign the snake contract, which helped him gain the title Snake Sannin, but a second contract for an impenetrable shield as well. "Thank you, Orochimaru-sensei," was all he could say. And, from what the Sannin had said, it was possible to gain even more summons. "It is only appropriate that I allow you to sign these, since you are my student," commented the Sannin. "Now, in order to bind yourself to the contract, you must sign your name in an empty space in blood. Then use your blood to leave the handprint of the hand you wish to summon with," he explained. Naruto did as he was told, signing the snake contract with his right hand, and signing the Roshoman contract with his left. He paused as he felt a connection form between himself and the contracts. "Excellent," said Orochimaru once Naruto was done. "I will advise you to avoid summoning around others for now. If you summon snakes, it will become known that you have trained, or at least interacted with me. And, the Roshoman gates will cause too many questions. Oh, and once you have started summoning, wait a few months before you attempt to summon the snake boss Manda. If you summon him, he will require you to pass a test of his choosing to call him for aid. Passing means that he will help you when you need it. Fail, and he will still help you. But he will demand that you pay him a tribute each time," he warned the boy. "And now I must take my leave, Naruto-kun. I have several projects that will take my full attention for a number of months." "Hi, Orochimaru-sensei." Just as the Sannin was about to leave, Naruto stopped him with one last question. "Sensei, are there others out there like me?" Orochimaru paused for a second before answering. "Hi, there are," he said. "Those with demons sealed in them are called Jinchuriki, and apart from you I have heard of 3 others. The first and youngest is a child your age in Sunagaku and contains the Shukaku. The second is in her 20s, lives in Kumogaku, and contains the Nibi. The third that I know of is an old man that holds allegiance to no village and contains the Yonbi. I don't know if you will ever meet them, or any others, but it is a distinct possibility." Orochimaru paused again as he considered something. "Naruto, you have yet to tap into the demonic chakra of the Kyuubi. This means you are at a disadvantage should you encounter another Jinchuriki, or anyone else who have developed skills that imitate Jinchuriki. I can give you a special seal that can replicate demonic powers. But it is very dangerous." Naruto didn't need to think more than a second. "If I was worried about danger, then I wouldn't be suited to the life of a shinobi. If it can make me stronger, then I accept it and its risks." "Kukuku, just what I expected from my student," chuckled Orochimaru as he made a modified tiger hand seal. "This will render you unconscious, but I will send Kabuto to check on you in the morning. Kimimaro will be the one to teach you how to use this curse seal. Juin Jutsu," he cried as his neck extended and he sank his fangs into Naruto's left shoulder. Naruto cried in pain as chakra and venom surged into body. Since no one lived close by, there was no fear that someone would come to investigate the sound. When Orochimaru retracted his head, Naruto gripped his shoulder, right before passing out in pain while the seal went to work altering the blonde's body to accommodate its abilities. Orochimaru caught the boy before he fell all the way to the floor and carried him to the bedroom. As he laid the boy down, he checked the mark that was left from his jutsu. The heaven seal. Odd, I was trying to give him the earth seal like Kimimaro. Of course any seal would have given him power, and this isn't the first time someone got an unexpected seal, but never the heaven seal. But, either way he will have the power he will need to fight Akatsuki." The snake Sannin turned to depart, but before leaving he paused and gave his student one last wistful look, almost regretting the fact that was leaving someone he spent so much time with. Shaking his head at the unusual bout of emotion, Orochimaru left his student to prepare the next phase of his plan. Time skip. Day of the Genin team selections. In the life of a Genin, there are several important days. The first of which is the day they graduate the academy. The next important day is just a few days later when the Genin are assigned to their teams. And, for Naruto, this was probably an even more important event because that is when each student he will be working with is announced. These will be the people that Naruto will be spending most of his time with. The majority of his training will be done with whoever he is teamed with, under the supervision of a Junin, one of the village's elite shinobi, who will see them every day unless they are called for a mission requiring their unique skills. If there was anyone in the village who would see what he could do, it would be these people. This meant that it was time to stop hiding his abilities. Of course he wasn't about to go flaunting his skills. But, he would do what he could to accomplish his missions. As he walked to the academy where the team announcement would be made, Naruto was the recipient of numerous stares. Some of the stares were the usual glares sent his way. However, some were stares of curiosity, and another group was comprised of nervous stares. Here was the blonde knucklehead that everyone was used to seeing bouncing around like an idiot, walking straight and tall, with an air of seriousness and calm that radiated off of him and could be felt by those around him. Or, it might have something to do with his new look. Naruto decided the same night he dealt with Mizuki, that it was time to get out the wardrobe he had been saving for when he became a shinobi. The only part of his original outfit that he kept was the black t-shirt he wore under his orange jacket. That jacket was now replaced by a black fighter's gi that was just loose enough to not mess with his maneuverability, with red cuffs and a collar that would hide the seal on his neck. Around his waist was a red sash, with the knot adjusted to the right. His orange pants had been switched with standard shinobi pants that were black in color, taped around his ankles, with a kunai shuriken holster taped to his right thigh and a tool pouch on his left hip. Upon his hands were black fingerless gloves with a metal plate in each. The Hitat 8 he had been given upon graduating now sat on his head in place of his green goggles. Finally, to complete the ensemble, Naruto had his own kusanagi. It looks like the sword Sasuke uses in Shippuden, tucked in the sash on his left, a previous gift from Orochimaru when he started training in Kenjutsu, and was the cause of the nervous stares. The sword at Naruto's side was based off of his sensei's legendary Kusanagi no Tsurugi, but there were distinct differences. The Kusanagi no Tsurugi was the sword given to whoever holds the snake contract, had an unbreakable blade that could even scratch diamond, and was always coated in a poison that would mean death to anyone but the wielder if not treated. Naruto's Kusanagi was nowhere near sharp enough to cut a diamond, only had poison if Naruto applied it, and it was breakable. On the other hand, his Kusanagi was made from rare chakra-treated metal that would allow it to absorb chakra and take on its characteristics. Because of this ability, it could be used as the focus for jutsu. All the attention he was receiving reminded him of how the Hokage looked when he turned in his shinobi registration forms wearing the same clothing he had on today. Naruto chuckled as he recalled the little incident after that led to him taking on his own unofficial apprentice. Flashback. Naruto was in one of the various administrative offices of the Hokage Tower. The Hokage and several Chunin assistants were just finishing up the paperwork to register Naruto as a genin, and Naruto was told that he could leave. But, before he could take a step, the door flew open as a kid about 8 years old with brown hair, wearing a yellow shirt, blue shorts, had some sort of helmet on his head and an unusually long scarf for such a small child wrapped around his neck. "Today's the day I beat you, Oji-san, and take the title Hokage," shouted the young child as he ran forward while brandishing a kunai. Or, at least tried to, since he only took 2 steps before stepping on the end of his scarf and fell to the floor. The kid picked himself up as he started looking for the culprit of his fall. But since no one was the cause but himself, the blame fell on the first person he saw. This was Naruto. "Hey, you tripped me," he shouted as he pointed an accusatory finger at the blonde boy. Naruto's eye started twitching at being blamed for something that happened halfway across the room. Normally he would just ignore the kid and just walk out of the room, because this was a kid. It just wasn't worth it. And, he would have done just that if it weren't for the second interruption. "Forgive the interruption, Hokage-sama. Konohamaru managed to slip away from me again," said a man wearing navy shirt, pants, sandals, bandana, and sunglasses walked into the room. The Sandame sighed as he answered, "It's all right, Ebisu. He just came by to try another assignation attempt when he tripped." "Oh my, are you all right, honorable grandson?" the now identified Ebisu asked as he turned towards his ward. "I'll be all right once he apologizes for tripping me," Konohamaru stated as he pointed towards Naruto, whose eye was twitching unusually fast. Ebisu looked towards Naruto and a small scowl crossed his face. "You there," he said in a loud and authoritative voice. Apologize to the honorable grandson. Having had enough, Naruto turned towards the kid to give him a piece of his mind. Look here, kid, he said as he grabbed Konohamaru by the front of his shirt. I don't know who you think you are, but you can't just go around tripping on your own scarf, and then expect other people to apologize for it. That's not how the world works, and is a lesson you need to learn. Now see here, you ruffian. Do you have any idea who that is? Shouted an upset Ebisu. Naruto just gave him a blank look before saying, no. That is the honorable grandson of the Sandaime Hokage-sama. Konohamaru expected the blonde boy holding him to let him go and start apologizing for everything. What happened was totally unexpected and stunned him. Naruto snorted. So, what difference does that make? Even if it was Hokage Ojisan who tripped on his own ropes, he wouldn't go around demanding someone else to apologize for it. And this kid who has done nothing to deserve the same respect as the Hokage certainly shouldn't get away with it. With that, Naruto dropped Konohamaru on his rump before walking out of the room and leaving the tower. As Ebisu helped up the small boy, he went into what his inspirational speech and lecture mode. Don't let what the ruffian said bother you, honorable grandson. While you are under my tutelage, it is only a matter of time before you become Hokage, for my teachings are the only shortcut to that goal. Ebisu, you do realize Konohamaru left after Naruto, right? Asked the Hokage. Ebisu blinked once, twice, 3 times. A loud, "Whaat" was heard from outside the Hokage tower. Meanwhile, Naruto was on his way to a training field as he tried to shake off his shadow. Eventually he had had enough. Kid, why are you following me? He asked as he turned around. Konohamaru came out from poorly used camouflage cloak made to look like a fence, looking rather sheepish. Well, I just wanted to ask you a question, he said with a lot more politeness than what he used back in the tower. Intrigued by the sudden attitude adjustment, Naruto decided to humor the kid. Alright, what do you want to know? Pausing for a second to think, Konohamaru asked. Everyone else who knows me calls me honorable grandson. And when people who don't know and find, they start calling me that too. So, why haven't you? Again Naruto couldn't help but snort. Because there's nothing honorable about being someone's grandson. If you want my respect, you have to earn it. Konohamaru thought about it for a second before asking a second question that caught Naruto off guard. Then, will you train me? Upon seeing Naruto's confused look, he elaborated. All the instructors at the academy, and even the Junin tutor Ojisan ordered to teach me, call me honorable grandson. And, I feel they aren't trying to teach me but the Hokage's grandson. But you don't care about that, so you would teach me as Konohamaru. Naruto thought about it for a second before asking a question that would determine whether or not he would do it. Tell me, Konohamaru, what you did back in the tower, do you do that often? Konohamaru nodded his head, and a fox-like grin spread on Naruto's face. Then I know just what to teach you. If there was one thing Orochimaru could never change about Naruto, it was his love of pranks and tricks. And Konohamaru provided the chance for a good one. Taking the boy under his wing, Naruto started training him to use the one technique guaranteed to bring down the Sandaime, the Orochi no Jutsu. It was an easy trick, but Konohamaru was still new to using ninjutsu, so it took up much of the day for him to get right. Eventually they found themselves in one of Naruto's secret training areas perfecting the Orochi no Jutsu. That was when Ebisu showed up and started spouting how the honorable grandson shouldn't spend time being trained by a ruffian like Naruto, and the only sure path to becoming Hokage was to learn under him. Konohamaru tried to prove Ebisu wrong by using his Orochi no Jutsu to transform into a beautiful, adult, female version of himself. When that didn't work, Naruto made 10 Kage Bunshin and had each use Orochi no Jutsu. This was enough to stun the Junin, allowing the clones to get close. Once they were close enough, they revealed themselves to not be Kage Bunshin but a watered-down version Bunshin Bakua, or exploding clones. The explosion wasn't enough to kill the Junin tutor, but it was enough to send Ebisu flying into the side of the Hokage mountain. After that, Naruto had to ask Konohamaru why he wanted to be Hokage. Konohamaru's response was, "If I become Hokage, people will recognize me as me and not the Sandaime's grandson." Hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at the similarity between himself and the boy. You don't know how much you and I are alike, Konohamaru. But you must know that if you want to become Hokage, you have to have more than a desire for respect. You have to have a want to protect those close to you in this village. That's why I want to be Hokage, he said, stunning the younger lad at this revelation. Not only do I want recognition, but I wish to protect those precious to me. And if I have the strength to be Hokage, then I will have the strength to protect them. He turned to the scarf-wearing boy with a big, almost challenging grin. So I'm gunning for the position, and if you want it, Konohamaru, then you have to be stronger than me. Konohamaru looked on in awe for a moment before matching Naruto's grin with his own. All right, boss. Amusing Naruto with the title. If I have to be stronger than you to be Hokage, then I will be. So look out, because sooner or later, I'll surpass you. Flashback end. Naruto cut his musings as he made it to the academy and reached his old class. He could easily hear all the noise the students inside made. That noise stopped as he opened the door and stepped over the threshold. Suffice it to say that his wardrobe change had an impact on his fellow genin. The genin were shocked. There was the loudmouth, day-glow orange wearing, Dobi, whom everyone thought would be jumping off the walls shouting to the skies how he was going to be a great shinobi and the next Hokage, had just walked quietly into the class. What was equally shocking was the new outfit, which almost sent one lavender-haired girl into a blush-induced coma, and how he just calmly walked over to an empty seat. And was that a sword at his side? "Hey Dobi," shouted Kiba as Naruto passed by him. "What's with the getup? Are you trying to impress someone by pretending to act like a shinobi?" Kiba snorted at his own joke. Naruto didn't pause for a moment as he quietly said, "I stopped acting when I graduated," before sitting in an empty chair by Sasuke. He did not notice one lazy genius, or one stoic bug collector raise their eyebrows as they caught on to the hidden meaning of his words. He just sat back, crossed his arms, and closed his eyes, making it appear that he was asleep. It wasn't long before the last two students showed up, Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura, both of whom tried to see who could get through the door first, shouting something about getting to Sasuke. Sakura got through first and ran towards the row Sasuke sat in. She stopped when she saw Naruto sitting in the seat next to Sasuke. Now if she weren't in mega fangirl mode she would have noticed Naruto's new clothes, but right now all she could think about sitting next to Sasuke. "Naruto Baka, get out of my seat." She expected Naruto to get out of the seat immediately as he had done in the past, but now it was as if he didn't even hear her. Getting a tick mark at being ignored, Sakura attempted to bonk Naruto on the head. Attempted being the key word as Naruto dodged by simply leaning his head to the side. Once again, this shocked the class and even stunned Sakura for a second before she attempted two more bonks, both of which were dodged with minimal effort. While this was going on no one noticed Iruka enter the room or make the rat seal. "Everyone sit down and be quiet," shouted the giant evil head no jutsu version of Iruka. Fearing their teacher's jutsu everyone grew quiet with Sakura and Ino moving to the back. Although the students had settled down, that didn't stop some of them from giving Naruto questioning looks. 8 in particular that Naruto himself had been watching. These 8 may not necessarily have had the best grades, but they had far more potential than any other genin here. Smiling at his now quiet former students, Iruka began his end-of-year speech. "Congratulations everyone. You are now shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato. But, don't think things will be easy now that you've graduated. Your life will become much more difficult now that you will be participating in missions and training under a Junin. Speaking of which, I will now be announcing the teams and who their senseis will be. Team 1 is..." Naruto listened without really paying attention to Iruka. He already knew that since he was labeled as the dead last of this class he would be put on the same team as the Rookie of the Year, which was Uchiha Sasuke. He also knew that there would be one genin that was labeled as average to balance the team out, but Naruto couldn't be sure who. Team 7 is Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto opened his eyes here, knowing that this would be his team. Haruno Sakura, the pink-haired genin, started jumping up and down while shouting how true love prevails at her blonde rival Ino. "Uzumaki Naruto and your Junin sensei will be Hatake Kakashi." Sakura stopped jumping and was now ing at having such an annoying person for a teammate. It took her a few minutes to realize that said annoyance had not reacted beyond giving his new teammates a quick glance when his name was called. Even though she and the other students who were paying attention to the blonde expected him to be bouncing off the walls for being on the same team as his crush, he seemed to still be half asleep. Though he was calm and quiet, Naruto's mind was already thinking of what he could expect from teammates. Sasuke was incredibly skilled among their classmates. He was strong, fast, and had a decent amount of chakra. He was skilled with weapons, traps, and stealth. And his ninjutsu and taijutsu forms were top-notch. But his desire to get stronger was past the point of obsessive and bordered on psychotic. If something stood between him and his goal, he would just push right on past it and ignore anything not related to that particular goal. That could get him killed because the chaotic nature of high-level missions made it so that it was impossible to know what is or isn't important. Sakura, on the other hand, was not particularly fast, was one of the physically weaker students, and had an unusually low amount of chakra. Her skills at traps and weapons were decent, and she was pretty good at stealth. Her ninjutsu was flawless, and her taijutsu was adequate despite her lack of strength. Sakura's real talent lied in her ability to retain knowledge. Just about everything she read she remembered. Her problem was her naivety and lack of imagination. She was too trusting and took situations at face value. And despite her intelligence, she had trouble thinking of new ways to use what she knew in an unexpected situation. Naruto figured that if he could get rid of their individual faults, those two could go far. Then there was their sensei. Hatake Kakashi is considered a genius who obtained the rank of Junin at the age of 13. Since then he has become known as Kakashi the Copy Nin and is considered one of the strongest shinobi in the village. Team 8 is Aburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, and your Junin sensei is Yuhi Kurenai. The makeup of that team caught Naruto's attention. Clearly whoever set up the teams was trying to create a attacking unit, since there was a member of the Aburame clan who specialize in wide area combat. A Hyuga with the Byakugan that allowed them 360-degree vision, telescopic vision, the ability to see through solid matter, and the unique ability to see chakra and the chakra circulatory system in the human body. And an Inuzuka who imitate the abilities of the canines they worked with. And those three happened to be the heirs for their respective clans. Team 9 didn't interest Naruto, but Team 10 did. Team 10 is Nara Shikamaru, Akamichi Choji, Yamanaka Ino. Ino started ing how unfair it was that forehead got Sasuke when she was stuck with a lazy bum and a fat ass, and your Junin sensei is Sarutobi Asuma. An obvious attempt at recreating the famed Ino Shika Cho trio. Now that that's done, Iruka continued, all of my duties as your teacher are over. Your senseis should pick you up within the next hour. Goodbye and good luck. With that Iruka left. Over the next hour, Junin came and picked up their genin students, until eventually only Team 7 was left. After 3 hours, tensions were beginning to become high in 2 of the genin. The third just sat in mediation. I wonder where our sensei is, said Sakura. He'd better get here soon or I'm going to pound him. Cha, said Sakura's more emotional inner self. I'm sure he'll be here soon, responded Naruto, who still had his eyes closed in meditation. Naruto's 2 new teammates looked at him oddly. All day they had noticed the blonde's odd behavior and it was really confusing them. But soon enough Sasuke just grunted and turned away not caring, and Sakura was about to test to see if this was the real Naruto when the door opened. In the doorway stood a tall scarecrow-like man, with gravity-defying gray hair, who wore the standard Junin uniform. It was impossible to determine anything about his face since he wore a dark blue face mask that covered the lower half of his face, and the left side of his face was covered by his Hidat that was worn at an angle. The man, who was Hatake Kakashi, didn't say anything and just stared at the 3 genin. And the 3 genin stared back. Quote, comma, quote, quote, comma, quote, quote, comma, quote, quote, comma, quote. Well, said the Junin, my first impression of you guys is you're pretty boring. Meet me on the roof. And without giving his students a chance to say anything, he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. After 5 seconds Sakura gave words to all 3's thoughts. That's our sensei, she said, somewhat unbelieving at how rude the man was. The 3 genin soon found themselves seated under the trees kept on the academy roof staring at their new sensei, who was leaning against the rail. Well, now, drawled their sensei in a lazy voice, how about we start with some introductions? What kind of an introduction, sensei? Asked Sakura. Just some basic information. Your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dream for the future. That sort of thing, Kakashi explained. Why don't you go first, sensei? Suggested Sakura. We don't know anything about you. All right, I'm Hatake Kakashi. I like a lot of things. There are a few things I dislike. I have several hobbies. My dreams for the future, well, I don't feel like telling you those. He said, causing the three genin to sweat drop. Now it's your turn. You start, Pinky. Sakura glared at her sensei for the nickname as she said, I'm Haruno Sakura. My likes are, glances at Sasuke. My dislikes are Ino Pig and Naruto. My hobbies are, glances at Sasuke again. My dreams are, glances at Sasuke while giggling, scaring her sensei and teammates. Okay, the girl is more interested in love, or is it stalking, than ninjutsu. Blonda, you're next, said Kakashi pointing to Naruto. Naruto gave his sensei a calm stare as he said, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. My likes include ramen, learning new techniques, and snakes. My dislikes include those who hate people for the actions of others. Kakashi raised his visible eyebrow in surprise as he figured out the hidden meaning. My hobbies include perfecting what I know, and taste testing new ramen ideas at Ichiraku's. My dream, here Naruto paused to turn and face the Hokage mountain before continuing softly, is to one day become the greatest Hokage ever. Well, that was unexpected. The kid's file said that he was loud, inattentive, and a complete goof-off. The only thing that seems to be accurate is how he wants to be Hokage. Well then, now the brooding one, said Kakashi indicating Sasuke. Completely ignoring the jab, Sasuke said, my name is Uchiha Sasuke. I don't have many likes, and there are numerous things I dislike. My hobby is to train. And, my dream is an ambition to kill a certain man. Naruto and Kakashi both knew who the Uchiha was talking about, and both knew that Itachi was way out of Sasuke's league and probably would be many years to come. Sakura just thought how cool her crush sounded. Well, now that the introductions are done, I want you three to go home and get some rest. We'll start our first mission tomorrow morning. What kind of mission? Excitedly asked Sakura. Kakashi I smiled as he simply said, survival training. What? Why is our first mission training? We did lots of that while we were in the academy. Whined Sakura. Sakura, said Naruto, surely you didn't expect to be done with such training. Now that we're genin and have a junin for a sensei, we should expect much more difficult forms of what the chunin put us through. Nodding at the blonde's words, Kakashi added, he's right, Sakura. This will be much more difficult than anything you went through at the academy, because you will have to survive against me. But even then it's not normal training. Here Sasuke's attention picked up, since there was the chance for difficult training. What makes it so special, sensei? Chuckling, Kakashi said, well, you may not like this, but this training will be a test. Out of all of your classmates, 66% will fail and return to the academy. What? Shouted Sasuke and Sakura, while Naruto had a knowing smirk that caught Kakashi's attention. I take it that you somehow already knew about this, Naruto. Giving his sensei an amused look, Naruto said, I observed the academy's remedial classes from time to time. I noticed that shortly after a class graduated, a majority of the students would return, take another year of school, and then take the test again. It wasn't hard to figure out that the test given in the academy just measures if we have the skill needed to be genin. Afterwards we are tested on something else. Something that not everyone has. The three around him blinked in surprise at the insightfulness from the class dobi. Kakashi couldn't help but chuckle. Right again, Naruto. You're much more observant than your file indicates. Anyway, I want you three to meet me at Training Ground 7 at 6 a.m. sharp. Bring any shinobi tool you want. And don't eat breakfast, otherwise you'll throw up. With that, Kakashi left via Shunshin. Sakura was feeling dread at the thought of a test with a failure rate of 66%. Then a thought occurred to her on how to figure out the test. Hey Naruto, did you ever ask? She trailed off as she saw the blonde who usually asked her for a date at every opportunity had already left without either of his teammates noticing. Since when could he? Oh, well. Hey Sasuke, do you want to go somewhere to get to know each other better? She asked the Uchiha who was already leaving to prepare for the next day. When Naruto left the academy, he made a straight beeline for one of his hidden training areas on the outskirts of Konoha. This particular field was different, for it was in an already established training ground. Training Ground 44, aka the Forest of Death. The forest was usually deserted aside from whoever was assigned to keep watch over the tower in the center. And, it was so large, even if someone was wandering around the forest, the chances that they would find something they were not looking for was nearly impossible. Coming to a stop in an area where the branches formed a particularly dense canopy, Naruto looked towards a tree branch off to his left. Honestly, Kabuto, do you even try to hide from me anymore? Removing the cloak that hid him, Kabuto grinned as he said. Who said I was hiding, and wasn't a distraction? As Kabuto said this, Kimimaro burst from his hiding spot on Naruto's right and rushed the blonde, bone knife in hand. In a single second the bone user had his weapon pointed into the small of Naruto's back. A perfect position to slash the blonde's spine, if not for the kunai pressed into his stomach. It's good to see that even with your recent success, you keep your guard up, Naruto-sama. Thanks for the compliment, Kimimaro. But you and I both know that when you're serious you keep all your vitals covered in bone. And how many times do I have to tell you not to call me Sama? Naruto asked in a bit of mock annoyance. He knew that no matter how many times Kimimaro was asked to stop, he would still give Naruto the honorific. As Orochimaru's apprentice, it is only appropriate that I call you by that title, said Kimimaro in that calm, monotone voice of his. But now is not the time for such discussion. I am here to teach you how to use your new seal. Kabuto is to make sure that you do not do anything detrimental to your health. Not there is much you could do to it, said Kabuto as he joined them on the forest floor. After all, if it wasn't for your healing ability, Naruto-kun, I would have never found a cure for Kimimaro's tuberculosis. Like I'm going to let one of my friends die if I have a way to help them. But I need to hurry now. I have an important test tomorrow. Ah yes, said Kabuto while readjusting his glasses. The true Genin exam. I'd like to help you, but each Junin gives their own test. Kimimaro, why don't you start with a bit of an explanation about the curse seal, and then a demonstration? He suggested. Very well. Turning to Naruto, Kimimaro adjusted his robes to reveal the earth seal on his chest. This, Naruto, is the earth seal twin to the heaven seal you possess. Among the various seals Orochimaru-sama created, these two produce the greatest amount of power and have a survival rate of 10%. Other seals have a greater chance of survival, but will not produce the same amount of power. When activated, the seal will spread over your body. The more it covers, the more power it releases. Here Kimimaro demonstrated by activating his seal. Soon his body was covered in an intricate series of connected black lines. Allow me to show you its power, he said as he got into the stance for his first stance. Naruto countered with Goken stance. Soon the two boys charged at each other. Naruto tried to use his speed to deliver a punch straight to Kimimaro's face, but the bone user ducked and landed his own punch to Naruto's ribs. Backing off, the blonde tried a kick-punch combo, but both were caught and he was head-butted in the gut. Kimimaro then went on the offensive, lashing out with a punch, kick, punch, punch, kick, and an arm thrust. Naruto switched to Hibiken and started swerving like a snake, while using his arms and hands to push several attacks away. Over the course of 5 minutes, Naruto tried 3 more styles, but no matter what he did, Kimimaro was a step ahead in speed and strength. Eventually Kimimaro ended the spar with Naruto pinned against a tree, with a bone blade to his throat. You know, Naruto-sama, I never said that you were limited to taijutsu, said Kimimaro as he deactivated his seal while stepping away from the blonde. Rubbing the back of his head with a sheepish grin, Naruto replied. I know, but how am I supposed to know how strong the seal makes you if I don't face you directly? Besides, you know I always keep a trump card ready just in case, said the Kage Bunshin as it dispelled while the real Naruto stepped out from behind a tree. After that little fight I realized that if you had used that seal in our spars, you would have always won. Kimimaro snorted. Those spars were just to increase our skills. Using the seal would have been pointless as I would have overpowered you from the beginning, making the spars useless. What the level 1 seal does is enhance what you can already do. And that power comes at the price of exhausting the wielder after prolonged use. You said level 1, interjected Naruto. Does that mean there is another level? Kimimaro nodded. Yes, there is a second level. Kimimaro activated his seal again and went straight to level 2. His skin became purple in color with dark markings under his eyes. His eyes changed color, the sclera becoming black and the iris a golden color. From his back sprouted several bone spikes that could be used to impale a person. Finally his spine lengthened and he grew a reptilian tail. All in all he looked like some dinosaur crossbreed between Stegosaurus and Velociraptor. Kimimaro only stayed in that form for a few moments before deactivating the seal. Once he was back to normal he gave Naruto a warning. In level 2 your abilities will be enhanced further and sometimes a unique ability will manifest, but prolonged use is dangerous. It forces the body to work overtime consuming large amounts of energy, which can lead to the body's cellular breakdown. Using level 2 is safe for a few minutes but that is the limit. The sound of clapping caught the boys' attention and they turned to Kabuto. It's always impressive to see your level 2 form Kimimaro, and you're right to caution Naruto-kun so. But time grows short and he needs to learn how to activate level 1. Very well, replied Kimimaro. Naruto, I want you to start meditating. Only instead of clearing your mind, fill it with the intent to find the seal. Once you feel it, grab it and draw it forth. Naruto closed his eyes in concentration and began seeking. It didn't take long before he felt something call him. Mentally reaching out and grasping it he noted how much it was like a snake. Strong, smooth, and in its own way seductive and beautiful. But underneath it all he felt the danger of a predator seeking prey. Pulling it towards him, Naruto could feel a surge of energy strengthening his muscles, bones, and chakra. Upon his skin black flame-like markings spread out from his neck, first covering the left half of his body, and then covering him entirely. When Naruto felt that he could pull out no more, he stopped and just held it there. Opening his eyes, Naruto looked down to examine himself. Naruto raised his head and with a smirk began going through his Goken katas. He could feel how each movement was faster and harder than normal. Both his speed and ability to leap had exponentially increased. Naruto spun and landed a punch to a nearby tree and shattered the bark and a bit of the wood underneath. As he stopped moving, Naruto began to feel a little tired and released his hold on the seal. Once the seal fully retracted Naruto had his hands on his knees and panting, completely exhausted. Not bad for a first-timer, commented Kabuto. He will need quite a bit of training before his body is used to the changes, stated Kimimaro. But so far he is doing better than most. Regaining his breath Naruto asked, when will I be able to use level 2? Chuckling Kabuto answered, while you may be able to awaken level 2 on your own, it normally takes some specially created pills that will release an enzyme in your body. That will act as the catalyst needed to summon level 2. But I won't give you any of those pills until I feel you are skilled at using level 1. If that's the case, then I should head home to rest for that test tomorrow, Naruto said as he walked off, leaving his two companions behind. Just before he left the edge of the clearing Naruto turned back and asked, who else is one of these cursed seals? Kimimaro answered, Chiyuya, Jorubo, Kidomaru, Saken, and Uken. Ah, said Naruto in recognition, having met each at one point in his training. His thoughts lingered on a certain foul-mouthed redhead as he departed from the forest. In Konoha the rising sun is always greeted with smiles and good cheer from its citizens. From the civilians that can spend the early dawn hours relaxing in bed before they start their day. And, to the shinobi who use the first hours of light to work on their physical condition before continuing on with their normal day's duties of training and missions. Normally it was only the Nara clan that disliked those early hours, evidenced by the blackout curtains that they all had lining their bedroom windows. But today they had some competition for the title of those who hate mornings on this particular day. That competition is from Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura, who sat by the posts of Training Ground 7 waiting for their third teammate and sensei. Both genin had arrived at 5:30 just to make sure they were on time for the test. And when it was 6 o'clock nothing happened. The same was true when 7, 8, and 9 o'clock rolled around. Now it was 9:30 and there was no sign of anyone else coming. It was all a little too much for one Kunoichi. RRRGGG, where are those two baka? Screamed Sakura to the heavens. Well, I don't know about Kakashi-sensei but I'm right here. said a voice that made Sakura jump. Looking back, she saw Naruto was leaning on the other side of the post she was sitting beside. Naruto, when did you get here? Sakura asked her blonde teammate. Oh, about 7:30, said blonde casually replied. Are you nuts, Baka? Kakashi-sensei told us to get here at 6. What if he had showed up and you weren't here? Naruto gave her a noncommittal shrug. To be honest, I didn't expect him to be here at 6. He told his pink-haired teammate. I did a little fact-finding on our sensei yesterday. Apparently Kakashi is infamous for his tardiness. He is always late by 2 to 3 hours except for when he has a mission or has to meet with the Hokage. So I knew he would be late, I just didn't expect him to be this late. Sakura blinked in surprise at how Naruto had actually thought ahead. That he had actually did some work that involved his mind. How many times had she seen him try to finish his homework 5 minutes before it had to be turned in? She might have complimented him on it had her thoughts had not been interrupted by a loud rumbling that emanated from her abdomen. Sighing, Sakura hung her head in embarrassment as her stomach continued to growl. Here, said Naruto as he took several items out from the pack he wore and put them down in front of his teammates. Looking down, Sakura and Sasuke saw that they had both been given a field ration bar, an apple, and a canteen of water to wash it down. If you two are hungry, you should eat it, said Naruto as he munched on his own apple. But Kakashi-sensei told us not to eat anything, said Sakura. If we eat that, he'll fail us. Naruto took another bite of his apple, chewed slowly, and swallowed before responding. Now that's just silly, Sakura. Getting up early I can understand, since we will receive many missions over the course of our career that require it. But telling us not to eat will make us hungry and decrease our energy. And what kind of shinobi expects someone to do well on a test if they're low on energy? Besides, he told us not to eat breakfast. If he asks, you can tell him that it was a morning snack. I don't know, Sakura said uncertainly. Looking over to her crush, she asked, what do you think, Sasuke? If the Dobi wants to fail because he wouldn't listen to Kakashi-sensei, then let it be on his head. I'm not going to eat anything, stated the Uchiha without looking at his teammates. Naruto quirked his eyebrow at what his teammate said. Then he did something that neither of the other genin were expecting. He bonked Sasuke on the head. Damn it, Dobi, what did you do that for? Snarled Sasuke as he glared at his blonde teammate while rubbing the spot hit. Taking another bite of his apple, Naruto said, because I can't kick you in the pants when you're sitting down. What the hell is your problem, Naruto? Shouted Sakura. You've been acting really weird lately and now you just suddenly attack Sasuke-kun for no reason. What's going on? I had a perfectly good reason for doing that, Sakura. And if you let me, I'll explain. Seeing that his teammates were being quiet, Naruto continued. My reason for hitting Sasuke was to reveal to him his greatest weakness. Sasuke doesn't have any weaknesses, retorted Sakura. And thinking that is your biggest weakness, countered Naruto, ignoring the look of anger on Sakura's face. Turning to the Uchiha who looked contemplative, he said, Sasuke, you have impressive skills in all of the basic shinobi arts. Your problem is that you are too goal-oriented to the point of obsession. You see the prize at the finish line and you ignore everything else. That doesn't sound too bad, stated Sakura. Some of the teachers at the academy encouraged us to work towards a goal. Let me put it like this. Would you take everything an enemy ninja told you at face value? Or would you dissect everything he said, trying to find any lies or tricks? Naruto leveled a serious glare, his eyes telling his teammates that he wasn't joking around. This is Kakashi's test, so we have to follow his rules. But his rules will be set up to give him every advantage possible, because then only the best will be able to pass. And Konoha only wants the best to be among their ninja ranks. So if we want to be a ninja of Konoha, we have to give ourselves any advantage we can get. Even if we have to break a few rules. Lightening up, Naruto then gave a foxy smirk. And if we truly are good ninja, then he'll never even know. You know, you still didn't explain why you hit Sasuke-kun, said Sakura. Naruto blinked in surprise. Didn't I? Well, it was a more practical example of what I said. Sasuke was so focused on the upcoming test he wasn't paying attention to his surroundings. That's why he never saw me coming. Sasuke and Sakura both looked at each other with looks of surprise at their teammates' insightfulness. Without a word spoken between them, they ravenously tore into the food, quickly consuming the ration bar and shredding through the apple. Their quick eating pace set partially by hunger and mostly by the desire to get food in their bellies without Kakashi finding out. Destroying the evidence was simple thanks to the nearby river. And so the three genin waited in silence for their teacher to arrive, feeling happy and full. Their energy reserves were now topped off thanks to the food provided by Naruto. But it didn't do much to relieve the boredom. After another hour, Sakura started grumbling about tardy teachers. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Precisely at 10:30 the silver-haired Junin walked into the clearing without a care in the world. Good morning, he cheerily greeted his three students, only to be in, you're late. Courtesy of Sakura. Sorry, apologized Kakashi, but I was on my way here when a black cat crossed my path. So to avoid the bad luck I had to take the long way here. Sakura and Sasuke's sweat dropped. Sensei, said Sakura, has anyone ever believed that excuse? Kakashi gave the pink-haired girl a non-committal shrug for an answer before he started rummaging through his backpack. Eventually he took out an alarm clock, 2 bells, and 3 bentos, and placed the alarm and bentos on a tree stump. Okay you three, this alarm is set for noon. Your task till then is to take one of the bells I have here. He said, holding up the 2 bells he brought. You only need 1 bell. If you don't get a bell by noon, you get tied to a stump and won't get any lunch while the ones that did and I eat in front of you. So that's why he said not to eat breakfast. Thought Naruto. Not only does it leave us low on energy but it also serves as an incentive to succeed. Also, continued Kakashi, if you fail to get a bell then you will get sent back to the academy. Sakura and Sasuke did not like the sound of that and were determined to get a bell. Naruto quirked an eyebrow in interest at the Junin's statement. You're allowed to use your weapons, so come at me with the intent to kill. If you don't you'll never pass. Finished the Junin. But sensei, if we use our kunai then we might hurt you. Sakura exclaimed worriedly. I don't think you have to worry about that, Sakura, assured Kakashi. Naruto's arm without hesitation snapped forward, throwing the kunai he had hidden in his sleeve. Kakashi caught the speeding kunai and in practically the same instant appeared behind the blonde, holding his weapon to the back of his neck. Sakura looked in awe of the speed Kakashi displayed while Sasuke contemplated what it would be like to fight a Junin. A little eager to start, aren't we? Commented the masked Junin. Not really, responded the blonde who spoke casually despite the blade pressed into his neck. I was just proving another point to Sakura. Hurting a Junin isn't an easy feat, especially for a genin. Well then, said Kakashi as he moved back to his original spot, still keeping Naruto's kunai, in that case let's start. He shouted. A blur of motion came from the genin as they moved to find hiding spots. Kakashi glanced around appraising their actions. Well, this team seems pretty good at hiding. Well, 2 of the 3. Naruto still stood where he was standing a minute ago, calmly eyeing the Junin. Is there a reason you didn't hide? Asked Kakashi. I wanted to fight you head on. Naruto responded as he moved into a basic taijutsu stance. Sigh, and here I was hoping you were different than what your file said. Muttered Kakashi. He reached into his tool pouch as he said, Ninja Fighting Lesson 1, Taijutsu. Finding what he wanted, Kakashi pulled out a little orange book, opened it to a marked page and began reading as if he didn't have a care in the world. You might want to put the book away, sensei, suggested Naruto. Oh, don't worry, I doubt it will make a difference in this fight whether I read it or not. Naruto shrugged, thinking, oh well, and charged. Kakashi observed Naruto from the corner of his eye without worry, until the blonde disappeared in a burst of speed. Instinct took over as a familiar feeling of dread welled in the Junin and he leaned back. Just in time too. Konoha Senpu, shouted Naruto as he reappeared crouched low to the ground, launching a straight kick up that would have hit Kakashi's chin if the Junin hadn't moved. But it was enough to make him drop the book. That was Guy's move, thought Kakashi, recognizing the dread as the same feeling he got whenever the man challenged him. Those thoughts were cut short as Naruto launched a left-handed punch at him. Kakashi caught the jab with his right only for Naruto to shift around, using his arm and Kakashi's weight as a lever to swing and drive his right elbow towards Kakashi's undefended back. The Junin released Naruto and leapt backwards, contemplating how this kid was much more trouble than he should be. Naruto expounded that notion further as he launched a wave of shuriken at Kakashi, forcing the man to leap into the air. Naruto was prepared and threw another wave from his other hand at the airborne shinobi. Kakashi didn't bother trying to dodge considering how difficult it was to do in midair, and instead he grabbed the kunai he took from Naruto and brought it up to block against the shuriken. Naruto smirked and twitched his left hand. Suddenly Kakashi's kunai jerked to the right, bringing Kakashi's hand with it, leaving the Junin defenseless to the oncoming shuriken. Just as the shuriken struck him, there was a cloud of smoke and a log where Kakashi once was, revealing that the Junin used Kawarimi to escape. Naruto didn't have time to consider where the man went off to when he heard the Junin behind him. Konoha Ultimate Secret Taijutsu, 1,000 Years of Death, said Kakashi in his crouched position behind the genin, thrusting his held-together hands and extended fingers at Naruto, striking where the sun don't shine. Naruto yelled in pain as he flew forward, several feet before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Kakashi blinked. When did that kid use Kage Bunshin? He wondered. Then he realized two things. 1. He had lost track of where Sasuke and Sakura were, making him wonder if the whole point of the fight was to distract him. The second thing he realized was that somehow Naruto had made off with his Ika Ika paradise. The man fumed at the loss of his book, but he had to admit to being impressed with Naruto. Didn't mean he wasn't going to kill him for taking his book. Naruto rested against the trunk of the tree his clone had been hiding. It had been close, but the second Kakashi used Kawarimi, so did Naruto. Good thing he decided to make a clone and leave it hiding somewhere just in case. Kakashi was good, no denying that. Despite the rudimentary knowledge he had of the Junin's skills and the complete lack of knowledge Kakashi had on his, the man still managed to take Naruto almost unaware. Naruto even went through the trouble of setting things up so they would be in his favor, such as leaving a Kage Bunshin waiting in the shadows, or how he had given the Junin a kunai that had a chakra string attached to it. Well, Naruto hadn't been trying to hurt Kakashi, so he held back, but so did Kakashi. But it wasn't a total loss. If things went accordingly, then Kakashi should have no idea where Sasuke and Sakura were, and he had managed to the Junin's book. Speaking of which, Naruto took a little look to see what his sensei saw in it. 3 pages in. Naruto's face was beet red and had a small trail of blood coming from his nose. Plenty of time to read it later, he decided as he stored the book away. Now on to other matters. He thought, it's time to figure out the trick to this test. First he told us to get here early and not to eat breakfast, while he himself waits until nearly noon to show up, offers a reward of food to those that get a bell. The loser gets no food and gets sent back to the academy. According to Kakashi's file, he has had 7 genin teams in the past and he failed all of them. So does that mean no one has ever gotten a bell? The whole thing is completely rigged against the genin, even more than I first thought. I mean, how does he expect a single, tired, hungry genin to take anything from a Junin? Naruto's eyes suddenly widened in realization, and then his lips formed into his foxy smirk. Clever Kakashi-sensei. You set up everything so that the genin are naturally driven apart in their desires to get a bell and to get the food. However, should the genin be able to work together, they might be able to take at least one of the bells. But then trying to get the bell isn't the true purpose of this test, is it? I'm guessing that you only fail whole squads and will only pass a whole 3-man genin squad. Naruto set off to find his teammates, a plan already formulating in his head. Finding Sakura was not that hard. Not after how loud she screamed. After their little fight, Kakashi had apparently decided to hunt down each member of the team. The first he found was Sakura, who was looking for Sasuke. From the lack of physical wounds on her body, Naruto concluded that their sensei had used genjutsu on her. Taking out a small vial of smelling salts, he waved the substance under her nose, returning Sakura to the waking world. What? She mumbled groggily. The bolting upright, she started looking around frantically. Where's Sasuke-kun? She worriedly exclaimed. He was just here, covered in wounds with knives stabbed in him. Calm down, Sakura, said Naruto as he grabbed the girl by her shoulders to get her attention. It was all an illusion. None of it was real. Sakura blinked as his words hit her. You mean that Sasuke-kun is all right? Assuming Kakashi-sensei hasn't found him. But knowing him, he's working on a way to get a bell. Not that it will do him any good. Are you saying he can't? growled Sakura, defensive of her crush. Yes, Naruto bluntly stated, but even if he gets one I doubt he will pass. What do you mean? I'll explain later, he said as he helped Sakura to her feet. Right now we need to find Sasuke, or else none of us will pass. Sasuke was not a happy camper. First he had been lured into revealing his position when Kakashi had faked an opening after his fight with Naruto, forcing Sasuke to find a new hiding spot. Then he heard Sakura's scream indicating that she was down for the count, leaving him and Naruto who had disappeared. That's when Kakashi had caught up to him. The two of them engaged in a fight. Naruto had made it look so easy that for a while Sasuke thought that he would get the bell. And he had been so close managing to touch one of them. But that was as close as he got. He thought that by using his Gukaku Jutsu, good thing he ate the food or else he would be out of chakra, he would be able to take the Junin by surprise. If he did it was only for a moment, and Kakashi used it as an opportunity to catch Sasuke in one of Doden Jutsu. Now he was just a head sticking out of the ground and Kakashi was off looking for Naruto, muttering something about, no good book thieves and 1,000 birds. Whatever that meant. When the Junin was out of sight, two pairs of feet wearing shinobi sandals. Looking, he saw his two teammates, Sakura looking worried and Naruto with an amused smirk on his face. Need help? Asked the blonde, not even waiting for a response before he and Sakura started digging the Uchiha out. Now that is finished, said Naruto as he clapped the dirt off his hands, let's go get a bell. Easier said than done, Naruto, said Sakura as she looked over Sasuke, who was trying to brush her away. Kakashi-sensei defeated each one of us. Precisely, said Naruto with a knowing grin. He defeated each one of yous. He said, emphasizing the one. That's why we are going to attack together. Huh, said a confused Sakura, but what's the point of doing that? Even if we did work together, one of us will still be sent back to the academy. Let me worry about that, said Naruto dismissively, waving his hand. Here's the plan I worked up, and why I believe it will work. Sakura and Sasuke would admit to being impressed by the plan, or to be more exact, why Naruto thought it would work. Sakura still thought it was a long shot. After all, if that was the point of the test, then why wouldn't the teacher tell them? Sasuke's thoughts led him down a different path. Naruto, he said, catching the blonde's attention, ever since we graduated you've been acting different. You've been acting smarter. You've shown skill that surpasses what you used in the academy. What's going on? What happened to make you change so quickly? Naruto's face lost its smile and became completely emotionless. Deception is the greatest tool at a ninja's disposal, he said in a tone that held not a hint of cheer, sadness, anger, or any other emotion. A tutor who trained me made the suggested that by hiding my skills in the academy then people will underestimate me later on in my career. After all, you wouldn't believe how easy it is to get a hold of the public shinobi records we give to clients, which include our academy records. So, are you the Naruto that we knew or not? Asked Sakura, a little nervous that the usual happy-go-lucky Naruto was speaking so coldly. In response, a massive grin covered Naruto's face as he said, yup, I only hid my shinobi skills. Everything else is all me. Although I will admit that I don't have a crush on you, Sakura. That relieved the girl, and a little insulted. Of more things than one. Now she didn't have to worry about Naruto interrupt her blossoming relationship with Sasuke, once she could get him to agree to a date. But persistence, thy name is Sakura. Sasuke himself just nodded his head in understanding. This sounded like a good tutor. He wondered if he was still taking pupils. But now it was time for the three to implement their plan. Kakashi was a little frustrated. After dealing with Sakura and Sasuke, he went searching for Naruto to get back his book. But the blonde wasn't anywhere to be found. He even added chakra to his nose to enhance his sense of smell, but for some reason Naruto's scent was all over the place. This is the supposed dead last, he thought. Suddenly there was a slight rustling of leaves that snapped Kakashi's attention straight ahead, where Naruto had just appeared holding his sword in a loose grip in his right hand. Decided to finish what he started? Asked Kakashi, bringing his full attention to the one he deemed the most troublesome. Naruto smirked as he held up the prize in his left hand. Ika paradise. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. So what are you going to do now? Nothing, responded Naruto. Kakashi had only a second to contemplate the word when he suddenly leapt backwards to avoid a barrage of shuriken, kunai, and knives thrown by Sasuke. That trick didn't work the first time, so why did you think it would work this time? Sasuke in turn smirked. That's when Naruto charged Kakashi. Kakashi soon found himself ducking and swerving backwards to stay out of the way of Naruto's sword. He would have tried attacking Naruto to get the sword out of his hand, but Naruto kept a kunai in his left and was using it to guard against such attempts. And if he tried going left or right, then Sasuke would step in to block his path. It didn't take a genius like Kakashi to figure out the two were hurting him, and Kakashi figured he knew both where it was going to happen and what was going to happen. It happened just as he thought. As soon he was several feet away from a particularly thick group of trees, Sakura jumped out and tried to take his back. Kakashi had noted earlier that Sasuke attacked more ferociously when he went left, meaning that when Sakura attacked they wanted him to go right. So when Sakura attacked, Kakashi went left towards a small opening the trees provided against the genin's assault. He completely missed their smirk as Naruto threw his kunai, cutting a robe. The trap he set off was like the one Sasuke set up, except that if Kakashi wanted to avoid the knives and the genin, there was only one spot he could move to among these trees. And when Kakashi stepped there, he set off the second trap. A classic foot noose. It wasn't meant to hold the Junin, but in the second before he could free himself, Naruto swiped his sword forward, cutting the bells from Kakashi's waist. By the time Kakashi cut himself down and was back on his feet, Sasuke and Sakura were both holding a bell with Naruto standing between them. All three were smirking at their sensei. "Looks like we passed your test, Kakashi-sensei," said Naruto as he sheathed his kusanagi. "Which one of you figured it out?" Kakashi asked interestedly. "It was Naruto," said Sakura. "He noticed that everything about this test was set up so we would try working alone or even against each other." "He makes a pretty good argument," added Sasuke. "After convincing us that you were purposely trying to drive us apart to see if we would work together, it was only a matter of doing just that to drive you into our trap. And just so you know, we had several set up so that no matter which way you went it would have been a similar outcome." "Interesting," mused Kakashi. "And what would have done if I attacked instead of ran? Would you have still been able to get the bells?" "Does it matter?" asked Naruto. "After all, the purpose was to work together despite the test's conditions, not to get the bells." Kakashi couldn't help but chuckle. "Well, I guess you're right. So to make it official, Team 7 you pass." "Yuppie," cheered Sakura. Naruto and Sasuke just quietly smirked. "Now Naruto, about my book," said Kakashi, a hint of menace in his throat. "Gee, would you look at the time. I've got to go," said Naruto as he turned to leave. But he wasn't fast enough for Kakashi. He managed to get a hold of his shoulder. Naruto smirked as he dispelled in a poof of smoke, revealing him to be a Kage Bunshin. "What the?" said Kakashi. "When did he switch with a clone?" Sakura and Sasuke just looked on in confusion, a similar thought running through their minds. Naruto snickered as he made his way to the Forest of Death for another day of training with Kimimaro in the use of the Cursed Seal. Thinking of the Cursed Seal made Naruto wonder what his Orochimaru sensei was up to. Sure, it had only been a few days since they last saw each other. But his teacher could get a surprising amount done in such a short period of time. Deep in the land of rice, within a cavern-like room in one of many hidden underground bases scattered across the continent, stood the snake Sanin. Kneeling before him were 3 14-year-olds who all wore sound Hitat Atesh around their foreheads. "Dosu, Kin, and Zaku. From today onward you three will be working together as a team," said Orochimaru to the genin under his command. "You will spend all available time you have training for the upcoming Chunin exam being held in Konohagakure this year." "Orochimaru-sama, if I may ask, why are we going to that weak village for the exam?" asked Zaku. "Kukukuku, I would be careful, Zaku. The Leaf Village has a habit of producing exceptional shinobi. After all, I used to be of the Leaf. But your purpose is not to become Chunin. You will be there to accomplish several special missions for me," said Orochimaru. "You three will learn more of those later. For now, focus on your training. Because when you get there you will be placed under the command of a very special shinobi." "Who is it?" asked Kin. "My apprentice, Kukukuku." "Time skip. Sakura here. I am 5 meters from the target. Over." "Sasuke here. I am 4 meters from the target. Over. Kakashi here. Can you confirm it is the target? Over. Naruto here. Target confirmed. I see the ribbon. Over. Alright team, you know your orders. We are to capture the target. Move out. Wasting no time, Sasuke and Sakura jumped out of the underbrush and charged towards the cat sitting in the clearing. The cat wasted no time in dashing off in the opposite direction. Right into Naruto's waiting arms. Kakashi-sensei, I have the target, thank God, said Kakashi as he walked out from behind the tree he was waiting, reading his book that he eventually managed to get back from Naruto. I swear tracking down this cat gets more annoying each time. Hey Naruto, how come Tora runs away from us but runs towards you? Asked Sakura. You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, said Naruto doing his best sage impersonation as he petted the purring Tora. But in this case I use catnip, he said, pulling out a little bag that the cat started batting away at as if it was the world's greatest toy. Well anyway, this mission is complete and that is all that matters, interjected their sensei. Back at the Hokage Tower, Team 7 presented the cat to its owner Madame Shijimi, who proceeded to crush the boy creature in what amounted to an overly affectionate hug. Sakura couldn't help but think that it was obvious why the cat ran away so often. After Lady Shijimi departed with her yowling cat in tow, the Sandaime turned to the team of ninja. Well Kakashi's Team 7, there is still plenty of time left today to do another mission. Right now we have a babysitting mission, a shopping mission, and a mission helping with the potato planting available. Which would you like? Before Kakashi could say anything, Naruto stepped forward and spoke. Hokage Oji-san, I would like to say that right now it's pointless to assign us another D rank. At this point we're ready for AC rank. Kakashi decided to remain quiet to see how this turned out. That and he was getting to a good part in his book. Naruto, you're only a rookie genin. You haven't been active enough to get AC rank mission, exclaimed Iruka, who helped the Hokage assign missions when the academy was over for summer break. When Konoha receives a mission it gets ranked between A and D based on difficulty. Shinobi are then assigned accordingly, with the least experienced such as yourself getting D rank missions. I agree with what you just said, Iruka-sensei, stated Naruto, but I stand by what I said earlier that giving another D rank would be a waste of time. ARRG, Hokage-sama, please talk some sense into Naruto, pleaded Iruka. Interesting, said the Hokage. Kakashi, what do you have to say about what your student says? Looking up from his book, Kakashi said, well, under normal circumstances I would agree with Iruka. However, what he failed to mention is how one of the main purposes of D-rank missions is to give genin more time they can spend training, and to work on their teamwork. Personally, I think that my team already works well together, and they can train just as easily on one of the less dangerous C ranks. Very well, then I will assign your team a C rank, stated Sarutobi. Your mission will be to escort an important individual. Tazuna, you can come in now. As he said that, the door opened and an old man, drinking a considerable amount of sake, walked in. What's this? He exclaimed. These are just a bunch of super brats. Especially that short blonde with the stupid face. Who are you talking about? Asked a blonde guy whose head popped up from behind Tazuna. I'm talking about that. One. In the middle. Tazuna trailed off as he saw that the guy behind him was an exact of the kid he was mocking. The two Narutos smirked at the client's hanging jaw. The one in the hallway walked into the room to his double. They gave each other a high five as the one that was originally in the room, they think, disappeared in a puff of smoke. The remaining one turned back to Tazuna. You're letting flies in, he said. What, how, when, was all he could get out. Sakura couldn't help herself as she started giggling quietly. As you can see, Tazuna-san, my team are skilled shinobi, said Kakashi, and if that doesn't ease your fears, I am a Junin. If there is any trouble I am sure I can handle it. Well, alright, agreed Tazuna. If the stupid-looking one could do that, then what could the others do? Several hours later the group of 5 departed through the village's main gate. Along the way Sakura asked about Tazuna's home country, the Land of Waves, leading to Kakashi giving a brief explanation of the various hidden villages, their purpose, and how only the leaders of the 5 great shinobi villages are referred to as a kage. Then he went right back to reading Ika Ika Paradise. As the shinobi and their client continued, no one noticed the small puddle of water on the side of the road. Or how after they passed it swiftly and silently morphed into two masked shinobi with horned Hidat Atesh that possessed the symbol of Kiri. The two ninjas swiftly and ruthlessly attacked, starting with Kakashi. Taking the Junin by surprise, they wrapped the razor-sharp chain that connected their custom gauntlets, and sliced him into little bloody bits. "One down," said one of the masked shinobi. They continued their assault using the advantage gained from surprise to appear around Naruto, gaining almost no reaction from the boy. Sasuke was the first to react, throwing a shuriken that caught the razor chain, lodging it against a tree trunk. He then threw a kunai that went through the hole in the shuriken, locking both it and the chain there. That didn't deter the two mist nin as they unlocked the chain from their gauntlets, separating the two and freeing them. One of them dashed to Tazuna, with Sakura jumping between the two, while the second went for Naruto. The Kiri shinobi was right on him when suddenly Kakashi appeared, knocking the man out cold, the other already in his grasp. "Phew, good work team," complimented Kakashi as he tied up their enemies. "Naruto, I would have come saved you sooner, but I really didn't think you would freeze like that." Naruto smirked. "Who said I froze? Check their legs." Doing as asked, the Junin found an identical rip in both shinobi's pants on opposite sides. Checking underneath, he found that there were small scratches, the flesh around which was already starting to turn purple. "As you can see, sensei, when they attacked me for the first time I cut both of them with a poisoned kunai," he explained, glad that Kakashi would look further and find the snake bites that were the true source of the poison. Yes, he did scratch them, but with an ordinary kunai. The flesh there was only turning purple because that was how this particular poison that was in both men's blood reacted when exposed to air. If you didn't notice, their movements were already slowing down. "By my calculation, unless they get this antidote," he said, holding a small vial of liquid, "they'll die in 15 minutes. Kakashi let his student administer the antidote, although letting the men live wasn't really necessary since he knew who they were and already figured out their target. Now he just needed to know the why. "Tazuna," he said, turning to the old man who was visible scared, "we need to talk." The end. Now we will see you in the next video.